Chapter 148. Legends of fox demons wreaking havoc on the world were all told in ancient novels. Since ancient times, fox demons were the epitome of seduction. At first, Lin Jin didn't think much of it, but when he saw Shang'er's face, he realized that the legends weren't all made up. Some people said that anger was for a beautiful woman, while others enjoyed debauchery. Others said that beauties were the source of trouble. There was no lack of wise rulers in ancient times, but how many of them could transcend the word beauty? Fortunately, Lin Jin had strong willpower and Shang'er didn't cultivate any kind of seduction, so she wouldn't be able to bewitch anyone. Also, demonic transformation didn't mention seduction. If it did, Lin Jin would have let Shang'er cultivate it. He wanted to see just how terrifying this fox demon's seduction skill was. Shang'er seemed to be in a bad mood today, as if something was bothering her. Lin Jin could tell, so he couldn't help but ask. Only then did Shang'er reveal the reason. Today, someone was spying on us from afar. I chased after them, but they were nowhere to be seen. Lin Jin's heart skipped a beat at this. Shang'er and the others were monsters. If they were discovered, they would definitely be in trouble. This matter couldn't be treated lightly. Shang'er, did you see it clearly? Lin Jin had to confirm. Shang'er nodded. Lin Jin's expression turned grim. Shang'er's abilities were not bad. She was a 4th-rank fox demon and had already cultivated the art of object manipulation. Even if she did not know any spells, her speed was still extremely fast. Those who could escape under her watch were not ordinary people. Regardless of whether that person was good or bad, they couldn't afford to be careless. We can't stay here any longer. Let's move. Lin Jin was more decisive. No matter who it was that was spying on Shang'er and the others, they mustn't take the risk. Since Lin Jin had spoken, none of the foxes would object. Although they couldn't bear to leave this place, they had to leave. Not only did they have to leave, but they had to leave immediately. However, where they were going to move to was another problem. Why don't we go to Mount Zoraku? Shang'er suddenly had an idea. Lin Jin nodded at this. Mount Zoraku was more remote and deeper in the mountains. Occasionally, people would come here, but Mount Zoraku was deserted even during the day. It would be much safer to hide there. Although it was a little further away from Maple City, it was worth it for the sake of safety. 2 hours after Lin Jin left with Shang'er and the fox cubs, 2 silhouettes appeared outside the cave they were in before. Both of them were dressed in short clothes with their sleeves rolled up, revealing their strong muscles. Their faces were covered with black masks, so their faces could not be seen. Behind them were their pet beasts. One was a 5-meter-long black panther, while the other was a spotted python coiled around a tree branch. One of them looked around and said, "Old G, didn't you say that there were fox demons hiding here? Why isn't there any?" An old man at the side was startled and hurriedly entered the cave to investigate. His nose twitched as he said, "Old Pan, you know I never lie. There is indeed the aura of a fox demon here. Perhaps it hasn't returned yet, or perhaps it sensed danger and fled in advance." Old Pan snorted coldly. "Old G, you said that one of the fox demons has mastered the art of shapeshifting and can appear in the form of a woman. However, shapeshifting has been extinct for many years. Nowadays, even mystical beasts are few and far between, let alone mystical beasts that have mastered the art of shapeshifting. Don't you know how to lie? This matter is absolutely true. If I have even the slightest bit of deceit, then let me die without a burial site." The old woman became anxious and made a vicious vow. "Forget it, I don't care if it's true or not. Since the fox demon you mentioned isn't here, it's highly likely that it has escaped. If we want to find it again, it won't be possible in a short period of time. Let's head to Maple City first and settle our business." Old Pan's tone was vicious. Old G didn't dare to disobey, so she could only give up for now. Both of them rushed to Maple City overnight and sneaked into the city. "Old G, you go to the Zoo Manor and snatch the Hydra. I'll go subdue that monster hiding in the dilapidated temple." It's best if we don't alert the experts in the city to avoid unnecessary trouble. After Old Pan was done with his instructions, he brought his spotted python back to the dilapidated temple while Old G made a beeline for the zoo manor. However, even after Old G returned, Old Pan was nowhere to be seen. What's going on? Old G was panicking. The zoo family could notice that their pet beast had been stolen at any moment. Moreover, there was a time limit to how much he could control the Hydra with his expensive beast control talisman. Once the time limit was exceeded, the talisman would lose its effect and he wouldn't be able to control the Hydra. Old Pan isn't bad, and she has a rank 2 ghost-spotted python. There shouldn't be any problems. Old G mumbled to himself as he took off his mask. If Lin Jean were here, he would definitely recognize this old man with the surname G as the one who fought Zhu Kan for the two-headed snake at the pet beast auction. This old man was an expert in beast appraising, and he even had a powerful magic tool that could detect demonic energy. Back when he was strolling around Maple City, he noticed that there was demonic energy in the well of a rundown temple in the city. At that time, he concluded that there was a demonic beast down there, and based on the demonic energy, the beast was only at the first level. Although the monster was terrifying, its entire body was a treasure. Its flesh, blood, and bones could all be used as medicine. However, it was still a rank 1 monster after all. Old G was afraid that he couldn't handle it alone, so he went to Old Pan for help. Old Pan was a ruthless bandit and had been good friends with Old G for many years. The two of them had come to an agreement that they would bring the Zoo clan's joeying snake beast and the first-level demonic beast from the dilapidated temple away. Just these 2 items alone could be exchanged for 10,000 gold taels. With that, they would be able to live the rest of their lives without worry. Things were progressing smoothly on his end, but Old Pan ran into trouble. Helpless, Old G had no choice but to direct his pet beast to the dilapidated temple. When he arrived, he sensed something was amiss. The malevolent aura here was thick. Old G continued forward and saw fresh blood on the ground. Clearly, it had just been left behind. There was no sign of Old Pan, nor was there any sign of her pet beast. That's odd. When they arrived at the well, Old G saw that the boulder that was originally on top of the well had fallen to the side. Someone must have moved it away. Beside the well, there was a lot of blood stains. There were even some signs of someone being dragged. Old Pan, Old Pan. Old G called out twice. When there was no response, he began to panic. In the past, when he and Old Pan worked together on such shady jobs, nothing had ever gone wrong. Old Pan, in particular, was a ruthless person who killed people like scything flax. As long as there was money to be made, she would do anything. Old Pan could be described as bold but meticulous. Old Pan had once captured a monster beast and had seen the world. Even if the monster beast was in trouble, it could at least escape. However, from the looks of it now, Old Pan seemed to have met with misfortune. Old G looked at the bloodstains and scratches by the well and felt even more uneasy. He planned to leave. It was true that Old Pan was a friend, but judging from the traces here, the odds were against her. At most, he would burn more joss paper for the old man when he got back. Having made up his mind, Old G prepared to leave. But then, he heard movement from the well. Instinctively, he turned back to see Old Pan struggling to climb out with her face covered in blood. It was obvious that Old Pan was out of energy. She couldn't even shout. With quick reflexes, Old G hurried over and pulled Old Pan out of the well. Old Pan was in a terrible state. Her clothes were torn and there were several wounds on her body that bled profusely. Her face was pale. Old G looked back. Old Pan, what happened? Where's your pet beast? Dead. F*CKU. Stop asking. Quick, get me out of here. Old Pan was horrified. Old G felt his hair stand on end. He hurriedly ran out, but after taking 2 steps, he heard something behind him. Looking back, he saw a huge black anaconda crawling out of the well. The black anaconda exuded a thick demonic aura and its eyes were menacing. Old G shuddered. As a beast appraiser, he could tell that this black anaconda was definitely not just a rank 1 monster. Needless to say, he had miscalculated. Run. There was nowhere to run. With Old G supporting Old Pan, they couldn't run fast. Even if they sprinted at full speed, they wouldn't be able to outrun the snake. Hearing the sound of wind behind him, Old G hurriedly invoked a spell and had his pet beast take the lead. He couldn't care less at a time like this. All he heard was a strange sound as if bones were being broken. Old G turned to look and his eyes almost popped out of their socket. His pet beast, a rank 2 saber-toothed black panther, was twisted into a fried dough twist by the black anaconda. From the looks of it, none of the panther's bones were in good shape. This was terrifying. Old G was straightforward as well. He pushed Old Pan to the side and ran off. In times of crisis, brotherhood and loyalty were all bullsh*. Moreover, Old Pan was a ruthless man. Old G had long been dissatisfied with him, so how could he risk his life to save Old Pan? His own life was the most important thing. As he ran, he stammered, "Rank 2? It must be a rank 2 monster. How could there be a rank 2 monster in Maple City? We're doomed. We're doomed." Old Pan fell to the ground from the push. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. He didn't even have the strength to curse. One of his legs had been broken by the black anaconda earlier, so it was as limp as a noodle. He couldn't even stand up. After crawling a little, the snake swallowed him whole. Old G didn't even dare to look back. He ran as fast as he could, but he knew that in terms of speed, he couldn't outrun the black anaconda. The creature could cover a distance of 50 to 60 feet with just a twist of its body. Sensing the wind behind him, Old G rolled on the ground and dived into the ruins of a collapsed temple. It was like a rat running away from its prey. He couldn't care less about anything else now. Wherever there was a crack, he would dive in. As for resisting, forget about it. His rank 2 pet beast was almost instantly killed by the black anaconda. How was he supposed to fight back? Crawling into the collapsed beams and broken tiles, Old G couldn't stop shaking. He was truly afraid. Right now, he didn't want to think about anything other than his life. This pile of rubble clearly couldn't stop the black anaconda. Old G was in despair. He could even smell the stench coming from the snake's mouth behind him. However, even after waiting for a long time, the black anaconda didn't move. While this surprised him, it also made him curious. Emboldening himself, he turned around and saw the black anaconda acting as if it was facing a great enemy. It no longer cared about him as it stared in another direction. From the snake's cold eyes, Old G could see fear and even terror. Old G hid in the crack, afraid to come out so he couldn't see what was threatening the black anaconda. He was curious. Although he didn't dare to come out, he poked his head out to look at the ground. Under the moonlight, their shadows were cast on the ground, elongating quite a bit. The two shadows looked like a man and a woman. Chapter 149. Time seemed to have come to a standstill. The black snake monster remained motionless, unsure of whether to advance or retreat. Meanwhile, the two silhouettes remained motionless as well. This state continued for some time. Suddenly, the female silhouette took a step forward and the black snake monster's aura crumbled. It curled up into a ball as if begging for mercy. But then, an eagle's cry came from afar. Old G was momentarily distracted and the two silhouettes on top of the wall had already vanished. Then, a giant goshawk swooped down and engaged the black snake monster in a fierce battle. Old G recognized the goshawk right away after taking a glance at it. In Maple City, anyone in the field of beast appraising would know about this goshawk. It was a rank 3 war eagle belonging to the City Lord Manor, and its blood contract owner was the City Lord Manor's steward, who was also the former commander of the city guards, Swawentong. An expert from the City Lord Manor had arrived. Old G was both happy and shocked. He was happy that he was saved but shocked that he was caught stealing someone's pet beast. If he were to be caught, he might end up in court. At this thought, Old G wanted to run. But by then, Xuewentong had arrived. Not only him, but a large group of city guards had arrived as well. In the blink of an eye, the dilapidated temple was completely surrounded. Old G knew he was done for. Meanwhile, Xuewentong stood on the roof, watching the black snake monster fighting with his pet beast with a grim expression. How could there be a monster of this level hiding in Maple City? His subordinates didn't dare to make a sound. Xuewentong didn't say anything. He could tell that the black snake monster was powerful. If he wasn't mistaken, it was at least a rank 2 monster. Moreover, it knew some demonic cultivation spells, making it a difficult opponent. Even Old G had to give it his all by controlling his pet beast and casting spells. But even so, his giant goshawk could only hold its own against the black snake monster. Or rather, it was at a disadvantage. Goshawk's cry, lightning peck. Xuewentong cast a spell. The next instant, the giant goshawk that was fighting the black snake monster let out a deafening cry that resounded through the sky. At the same time, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky and directly blasted the black snake demon. In terms of sorcery, Xuewentong could definitely be considered an expert. His blood contract was already at the 5th realm, and the level of his sorcery was also very high. As the lightning struck down, the scattered lightning caused the already dilapidated temple to collapse even more. Looking at the black snake demon, its entire body was charred black. It was obvious that it was heavily injured. However, it didn't kill it. Behind a distant roof, Lin Jin crouched down to watch the commotion. Xiang'er followed suit, but her posture was much more elegant. Clearly, the two figures Old G had seen earlier were them. They were also the ones who had deterred the black snake monster. Master Lin, aren't you going to help? Xiang'er asked. Lin Jin shook his head. You're underestimating the City Lord Manor. There are plenty of experts there. Moreover, Maple City has the Friar Association. A mere black snake monster is nothing to be afraid of. It doesn't matter if I go or not. That was true. Previously, the black snake demon had been hiding so no one noticed it. Now that it was discovered, its fate was sealed. After settling Xiang'er and the others down at Mount Zoraku, Lin Jin remembered that the black snake demon was a potential threat. Since there was no time like the present, he dragged Xiang'er along with him, planning to quietly eliminate the black snake demon. But when they arrived, they saw the black snake demon chasing after an old man. Lin Jin and Xiang'er suppressed the black snake demon with their auras, but just as Xiang'er was about to make a move, she sensed a goshawk approaching and dodged. Later on, the giant goshawk and the black snake demon fought as Xuewentong and the city guards rushed over. Lin Jin and Xiang'er were quick enough to avoid being discovered. At this moment, something flew out from the direction of the Friar Association. Upon closer inspection, one could see a white peacock spreading its wings and flying over. On the back of the white peacock stood a handsome and elegant man. It was the Friar Association's #1 disciple, Yang Jie. Standing with his hands behind his back, he rode on the bird and arrived above the dilapidated temple in just a few moments. Steward Zhuo, I, Yang Jie, am here to assist you in eliminating the monster. Yang Jie bowed. Xuewentong smiled. So you're Mr. Yuzhou's disciple. Mr. Yuzhou my teacher is in seclusion, studying the evolution method of his pet beast. He can't leave, so he sent me here to assist you, Steward Zhuo. Having said that, Yang Jie invoked a spell and leaped into the air, landing beside Xuewentong. At the same time, the white jade sparrow descended like a torrential downpour of wind blade. Under the rain of wind blades, the black snake demon screamed in agony as wounds appeared on its body. Especially the white jade sparrow. Like a sharp sword, it swooped down with its wings like blades. In an instant, the black snake demon couldn't evade in time and its head was sliced clean off. The black snake demon's head crashed to the ground as blood gushed out like a river. Amazing! That's Yang Jie! The city guards also exclaimed in surprise. From afar, Lin Jin frowned. However, to be honest, Yang Jie's abilities were not bad. His sorcery was executed extremely smoothly, especially that final slash. The angle and timing were perfect. It happened when the black snake demon was busy fighting the giant goshawk and was busy dealing with itself. In other words, Yang Jie had caught the snake off guard. It was a sneak attack. Hence, despite his beautiful movements and intricate spells, Lin Jin despised him. "Let's go," Lin Jin said. There was nothing else to see. Now that the black snake demon was slain, the monster's corpse definitely wouldn't fall into his hands. Hence, it was more important for him to head back to bed. Shang'er definitely couldn't go back with Lin Jin. She had to rush back to Mount Zoraku. Lin Jin was very confident in Shang'er's abilities. She was a rank 4 monster, and other than object manipulation, Lin Jin had also imparted some of the essence of transformation to her. Now that Shang'er was strong enough to stand on her own, there was no need to worry. After checking out Lin Jin's house, Shang'er bade him farewell. Then, she glided gracefully with the wind and flew out of Maple City. Shang'er was getting more and more familiar with object manipulation. She could even control flying leaves and tread on them like an ethereal fairy. At this speed, she soon arrived at Mount Zoraku. However, at this moment, she felt a strange movement beneath her. She immediately changed her direction and flew down. She stepped on a branch and looked around. In a nearby valley, a large creature was curled up. Perhaps sensing Shang'er's monster aura, it let out a low growl as a warning. The growl was deep and thick, carrying with it the wind. It was definitely a large beast. Any normal person would be terrified under such circumstances. They would never dare to investigate the large figure hidden in the dark valley. After all, even though it was curled up, it still looked like a small hill, giving off an intimidating aura. But Shang'er wasn't afraid. She walked over curiously and finally got a good look at the large beast's true appearance. It was a giant white ape. Every time he came back, Lin Jin would first visit the beast pen in the yard. The shadow wolf had recovered well and Lin Jin had begun teaching it the beast energy formation. Previously, Lin Jin was worried that the shadow wolf would cultivate into a monster without a blood contract with its master. But Lin Jin was overthinking. As long as a pet beast had formed a blood contract, even if it cultivated the beast energy formation, it wouldn't turn into a monster. Patting the shadow wolf's head, Lin Jin didn't care if the creature could understand him and said, "When you're fully recovered in 2 days, I'll help you evolve." Having said that, Lin Jin turned to the deer beside him. The deer's condition had improved after being treated this morning. However, its injuries were much more serious than the shadow wolf's. It was only by sheer luck that it survived. Lin Jin had already determined that the person who injured the deer was its owner. Or rather, its original owner. Even now, Lin Jin still couldn't understand why someone would do such a thing to their own pet beast. How could they be so cruel to them? Lin Jin patted the deer's head as well. "Don't worry and take care of yourself. Eat and drink. As long as I'm here, no one can hurt you." Talking to pet beasts was also a habit of Lin Jin's. Goldie had gone off to hunt for food again. This guy was elusive. Sitting cross-legged, Lin Jin performed acupuncture on himself using the pulse-seeking technique to dispel his fatigue and build up his energy. For the next few days, Lin Jin would do this. Half an hour of acupuncture would feel like he had slept through the night. It was magical and he wouldn't feel tired for the entire day. This was the cultivation method of the vein strengthening technique. Many things happened in Maple City that night. Other than the City Lord Manor and the Friar Association working together to kill the Black Snake monster, the search for the escaped Great White Ape was also fruitless. Meanwhile, the news of the Zoo family's two-headed snake pet beast being stolen sent the family into a frenzy. Fortunately, the city guards soon sent word that the stolen pet beast had been found. Not only was it found, but the thief was also apprehended. The Zhu family was in for a false alarm. While requesting the authorities to punish the thief, Zhu Tianhong sent Zhu Can to invite Lin Jin to help Zhu Can's younger brother, Zhu Yuan, form a blood pact with the two-headed snake as soon as possible. This was a top priority. Hence, at daybreak, Lin Jin was invited to the Zhu manor by an anxious Zhu Can. The Zhu family was in an uproar that night. After all, losing a pet beast, especially a rare rank 2 beast, was a huge deal. Fortunately, it was found in the end. Appraiser Lin, I apologize for making you come here so early in the morning. Zhu Tianhong had been waiting at the entrance for a long time. When he saw Lin Jin, he immediately went over to welcome him. Lin Jin waved. Lord Zhu, you're welcome. As they spoke, they had already stepped into the Zhu residence. In the courtyard there was an iron cage. The twin-headed snake that had been lost and found was now locked inside, looking somewhat dispirited and listless. Why was it dispirited? That night, the two-headed snake had been frightened out of its wit. First, it was controlled by a beast talisman in a daze. Then, it encountered the black snake monster. But that wasn't all. Later on, an even more powerful Shonger appeared. The aura of a rank 4 monster instantly caused the two-headed snake to break down. Even now, it still hadn't recovered from the shock. A perfectly fine snake was now as limp as a noodle. However, this wasn't a big deal. Even if they left it alone, it would recover on its own in a few days. The yard was filled with the Zhu family members. Zhu Tianli was there too. Surprisingly, he came over to greet Lin Jin warmly. Appraiser Lin, your presence brings light to our humble home. Lin Jin greeted them. After all, one shouldn't hit a smiling face. Chapter 150. It was as if Zhu Tianli had forgotten about his previous conflict with Lin Jin. In fact, after he returned that day, he realized what was going on. Master Liao was truly unreliable. Although he spoke eloquently, one had to look at the result. In the end, Master Liao was utterly defeated by Lin Jin at the beast auction. He couldn't even put up a fight. The two-headed snake was such an important bloodline, yet Lin Jin failed to notice it at all. Most importantly, Lin Jin wasn't the only one who noticed it. Others noticed it too, or else they wouldn't have bid against Zhu Can. However, Zhu Tianli didn't think much of it back then, which was why he was tricked by Master Liao. Later, when Zhu Tianli went to look for Master Liao, he realized that the man had already slipped away. Perhaps sensing that something was amiss, the old swindler fled in advance. When he found out, Zhu Tianli wanted nothing more than to hire an assassin to hunt that old man down. Fortunately, the pet beasts he bought back that day weren't completely useless. Still, a loss was a loss. Zhu Tianhong's reputation within the clan had soared because of Zhu Can's purchase of the two-headed snake. This wasn't something Zhu Tianli wanted to see. He knew that he had to do something. Otherwise, his chances of toppling Zhu Tianhong and taking control of the clan would be slim. What should he do? Simple. Sow discord and get someone else to do his dirty work. The two-headed snake was precious, but it was precisely because of this that it attracted unwanted attention. Zhu Tianhong wanted to let his youngest son, Zhu Yuan, form a blood contract with the two-headed snake. Zhu Yuan had just turned 16 this year, and was the second son of the patriarch. However, Zhu Yuan wasn't the only one in the tribe who hadn't formed a blood contract with a 16-year-old pet beast. The second elder, Zhu Xuanda's grandson, Zhu Guan, was one of them. Zhu Guan's father, who was also Zhu Tianhong and Zhu Tianli's fourth younger brother, had worked hard for the family in his early years. In the end, he was killed by an enemy, leaving Zhu Guan as his only son. Zhu Xuanda doted on Zhu Guan's only son, the third elder's grandson. Zhu Tianli himself had a 16-year-old daughter, so she should be qualified to compete for the chance to form a blood contract. Therefore, Zhu Tianli had been secretly plotting this matter for a long time. He had originally planned to make trouble in 2 days, but today, the twin-headed snake was almost stolen. This made Zhu Tianhong decide to form a blood contract as soon as possible. Therefore, Zhu Tianli knew that he could not wait any longer. At this time, Zhu Tianhong happily brought a 16-year-old child with him. His features bore some resemblance to his own. Appraiser Lin, this is my youngest son, Zhu Yuan. Yuaner, greet Appraiser Lin, Zhu Tianhong said, and the 16-year-old boy quickly bowed to Lin Jin. Lin Jin smiled. This Zhu Yuan was Zhu Can's younger brother. They really were brothers. They looked almost the same. However, Zhu Yuan was obviously a little shy, but he was very polite. All right, forming a blood pact with a pet beast doesn't take much effort. It'll only take a moment, Lin Jin said with a smile. However, at this moment, Zhu Tianli stepped forward and said, Wait! Zhu Tianhong was stunned. Second brother, you, big brother, Zhu Tianli, refused to accept this. Since Zhu Tianli had already made up his mind, he naturally wouldn't hold back at this time. Even though Zhu Can was the one who bought the two-handed serpent, he did so on behalf of the Zhu clan. He used the Zhu clan's money, so why did he give the blood contract to Zhu Yuan? Are you saying that Zhu Guan and the other children of the right age are no longer descendants of the Zhu family? This question was vicious and crafty. Zhu Tianhong's expression darkened. Zhu Can was furious as well. However, Zhu Can knew that it wasn't appropriate for him to interrupt in a situation like this. Zhu Tianhong was the patriarch after all. With a dark expression, he said, Blood pacts are the patriarch's authority. Based on their attributes, Yuaner is more compatible with the two-headed serpent. Since he's my son, it's only right for him to form a blood pact. There's nothing inappropriate about it. It was obvious that Zhu Tianhong wasn't a pushover. He displayed his authority as the patriarch. If Zhu Tianli was alone, he wouldn't be able to defeat Zhu Tianhong. Tianhong, you sure are impressive. The Zhu family's second elder, Zhu Xuanda, said with a dark expression, You're indeed being a little arbitrary in wanting to form a blood pact with Yuaner. No matter what, you should have discussed this with us first. How could you make such a decision on your own? Zhu Tianhong was surprised. His second uncle had always been fair and did his best for the Zhu family. Why would he suddenly jump out and disagree with him? Second uncle, why are you messing around with Tianli too? Before Zhu Tianhong could finish, third elder interjected, Tianhong, you've indeed acted improperly in this matter. What Tianli said isn't without reason. Your second uncle and I have discussed this matter, and we should still discuss it. This matter concerns the Zhu family's future prosperity, so we can't afford to be careless. Zhu Tianhong's expression darkened. He didn't expect several of the family's elders to stand on Zhu Tianli's side. All of them made it sound good, but in the end, they were all eyeing the two-headed serpent as a rank 2 pet beast with immense potential. It was only a matter of time before it got promoted to rank 3. Everyone knew that a rank 3 pet beast was the most important existence in the family. Hence, they were tempted. Zhu Tianhong's hands were trembling in anger. He first saluted Lin Jin and said, Appraiser Lin, I've let you witness a joke today. Please wait for a moment. Once we've come to a decision, we'll ask for your help. Noticing Zhu Tianhong's current predicament, Lin Jin didn't say anything and simply nodded. As an outsider, it wasn't appropriate for him to intervene in the Zhu family's affairs. Zhu Can's chest was heaving in anger. He wanted to say something but was stopped by Zhu Tianhong's stern glare. He glanced at the family's elders and said, Second uncle, third uncle, what do you think we should do? Second elder and third elder didn't say a word. They obviously wanted to fight for their grandson, but it wasn't appropriate for them to say it out loud. Greed and pride. Then, Zhu Tianli added, This matter must be fair. Either we gather the family's disciples who are of the right age and decide by random selection, or we let each family vote and the one with the highest number of votes wins. It was obvious that Zhu Tianli was trying to muddy the waters. He was only doing this to damage Zhu Tianhong's reputation and authority. Of the two methods he mentioned, the first was to rely on luck and the second was to rely on connections. He was confident about this. Perhaps this time, not only would he be able to strike a blow to Zhu Tianhong's dignity, but he would also be able to benefit from it. Either way, he could eliminate Zhu Yuan as much as possible. Especially the second method. Through voting, Zhu Yuan couldn't possibly stand out. Just then, second elder and third elder exchanged glances and said, "This matter concerns the family, so it's not appropriate to decide by drawing lots. Why don't we vote? What do you all think?" Hypocrite. Even Lin Jin shook his head at this. Since everyone knew that this matter concerned the family, they had to choose the most suitable candidate to form a blood pact with the two-headed snake. Truth be told, even Lin Jin was envious of this two-headed snake. Its future was limitless. But the problem was, it depended on who the blood pact was with. Zhu Can had already told Lin Jin about Zhu Yuan's situation. Lin Jin knew that Zhu Yuan and the two-headed snake's attributes were compatible, making them very suitable for forming a blood pact. As for the others, Lin Jin didn't know. But when he saw a young man behind second elder, Zhu Can said that this was Zhu Guan. Lin Jin studied Zhu Guan's arrogant and condescending face. One look in Lin Jin could tell that he was a spoiled brat. But that wasn't the main point. The main point was that this person's attributes were too far apart, making him incompatible with the two-headed snake. If second elder and third elder were truly looking out for the Zhu family, why would they ruin Zhu Tianhong's reputation and do something like this for their own selfish reasons? Later on, Lin Jin realized that not every elder was wise and steady. Not every elder could be washed clean of their past and have the mentality to see through and see through. There was still a gap between people. Compared to the Zhu family's peak years ago, they were declining year by year. It seemed like they were the ones with the problem. Just disobeying the patriarch's orders was enough to kill them. Now, the Zhu family decided to decide on the candidate through voting. Zhu Tianhong didn't say a word. It was obvious that he was tired and disappointed. For his family to act so preposterously for their own selfish reasons, Zhu Tianhong probably felt like dying. Finally, Zhu Can couldn't hold it in any longer and exploded. The Zhu family's rules state that the patriarch has the right to decide on matters of the family. Moreover, my father wasn't doing this for personal gain. Before deciding on the candidate, he had already compared the attributes of the other members of the family who were of a suitable age. It's just that in comparison, my younger brother, Zhu Yuan, is more suitable. And all of you have been incited by Zhu Tianli to cause trouble in public for your own selfish reasons. How disrespectful of your elders! If it weren't for my father supporting us all these years, the Zhu family would have fallen apart long ago. Despite Zhu Can's young age, he could see things clearly. However, his words were like poking a hornet's nest. After all, this was a slap to their faces, or rather, a stab to their sore spot. Insolence! How impudent! Is this something you should say? Tianhong, is this how you teach your son? He has no respect for his elders, and has no manners. How lawless! Zhu Can, kneel down and admit your mistake. As the storm raged on, the crowd began to criticize Zhu Can. However, Zhu Can raised his head and glared at his clansmen, refusing to back down. Just then, Zhu Tianhong stomped his foot and a striped tiger pounced from outside, letting out a roar. With that, the crowd's voices were immediately silenced. This striped tiger was obviously Zhu Tianhong's pet beast. At rank 2, it was quite intimidating. Zhu Tianhong stood with his hands behind his back. He first glanced at Zhu Can before saying to the others, "Zhu Can is my son. Even if he's in the wrong, I'll be the one to punish him. There's no need for you elders to worry." Upon hearing this, tears fell from Zhu Can's eyes. Even Lin Jin was impressed by Zhu Tianhong. At least the man didn't punish Zhu Can for the sake of his reputation or the so-called rules. Instead, he was resolute in protecting his son. This was the responsibility a father should have. The Zhu family's farce had broadened Lin Jin's horizons. Truth be told, he only came to help the Zhu family because of Zhu Can. Now that the Zhu family was stirring up trouble, Lin Jin couldn't get involved in their family's affairs. However, whether or not he would help the blood contract was in Lin Jin's hands. Lin Jin went over and patted Zhu Can on the shoulder, saying, "I'm here to help you because you're my friend. Let me make this clear, other than your brother, I won't help anyone else form a blood contract. Once you've made your decision, come look for me." Having said that, he turned to leave. The Zhu family was still fuming. Upon hearing Lin Jin's words, the second elder, Zhu Xuanda, was the first to scoff. "A mere beast appraiser dares to boast so shamelessly? It's as if our Zhu family can't survive without you. What a joke." "That's right. You're talking as if you're the only beast appraiser in this world. Brat, who do you think you are? If you want to scram, hurry up and scram." The Zhu family's third elder had a bad temper as well. Lin Jin stopped in his tracks. Chapter 151. Lin Jin stopped in his tracks. While the others didn't think much of it, Zhu Can shuddered. The others might not know what Lin Jin was capable of, but Zhu Can did. Of course, his knowledge was limited, but he knew that Lin Jin's pet beast was rank 3. He also knew that Lin Jin had joined the Friar Association and that his blood contract was on the 4th realm. Either one of these was in existence, the Zhu family couldn't afford to offend. However, Zhu Can said nothing, nor did he try to persuade Lin Jin otherwise. The members of the Zhu family didn't watch their mouths, so they deserved to suffer a little. Lin Jin turned to look at third elder and shook his head. "Zhu Can is right. You don't know how to behave at your age. Since you don't know how to speak, you should just keep your mouth shut." Having said that, he turned to leave. The others thought Lin Jin was going to do something, but to their surprise, all he said was harsh words. Immediately, someone mocked him. The third elder of the Zhu family also wanted to laugh, but he soon discovered something that terrified him. He couldn't laugh anymore. He wanted to speak, but when he opened his mouth, no sound came out. It was as if his throat was sealed by something and he couldn't make a single sound. He panicked. He clutched his neck and coughed, but he still couldn't speak. The others came to their senses and quickly went over to check, but they couldn't find anything. Third elder was so anxious that his eyes widened and he blew at his beard. In the end, he was too agitated and fainted. Another round of pandemonium ensued. Zhu Tianhong was also dumbfounded. He glanced at Zhu Can, and Zhu Can secretly nodded. Zhu Tianhong understood and didn't say anything. It was obvious that Lin Jin had something to do with this. Zhu Tianhong was very disappointed. Although the Zhu family had always been embroiled in internal strife, they could at least maintain some semblance of harmony on the surface. All these years, Zhu Tianhong had been trying to change the situation after assuming the position of patriarch. However, the clan was too powerful and his words didn't carry much weight at times. Just like today. He never expected his second and third uncle to cooperate with Zhu Tianli and embarrass him like this. In an instant, Zhu Tianhong was disheartened. Without another word, he walked over to Zhu Can and said, "It was our family's fault for neglecting Appraiser Lin today. Canner, since you're friends with Appraiser Lin, please apologize to him on my behalf." Zhu Can nodded. Then, he thought of something and asked, "What about the two-headed snake?" Zhu Tianhong laughed in anger. "If they want to fight, let them fight. Didn't Appraiser Lin say that other than your brother, you honor, he wouldn't help anyone else form a blood contract? Do you really think Appraiser Lin is just making a threat?" Zhu Can's heart skipped a beat as he understood. Sometimes his father could see things more clearly than he could. he also had absolute confidence in Lin Jin's skills. Lin Jin's words implied that no one else in this world could form a blood pact with the two-headed snake. After leaving the zoo manor, Lin Jin didn't return home. After all, the sun was already up, so he decided to head straight for the Beast Appraisal Association. Zhu Ken went to the association and apologized profusely. However, Lin Jin didn't blame Zhu Ken and Zhu Tianhong for this. With internal problems in the Zhu family, Zhu Tianhong was in a difficult position as the patriarch. However, Zhu Ken was still a friend, so Lin Jin left him a message. Sooner or later, those people from the Zhu clan will come and beg me. When that time comes, let them come themselves. You and the Tianhong clan leader don't get involved. When Zhu Ken heard that, he smiled and agreed. Lin Jin also gave Zhu Ken an evaluation report. It was a sapphire turtle's evaluation report. Back when the sapphire turtle was poisoned, Lin Jin had taken care of it for several days, so he was quite attached to it. Moreover, Zhu Ken was a loyal friend, so Lin Jin gave him the sapphire turtle's evolution method. Previously, the sapphire turtle was only rank 1, so it wouldn't be difficult for it to evolve to rank 2. Lin Jin believed that after Zhu Ken's pet beast evolved, their faction would have a greater say in the matter. Zhu Ken was naturally very grateful. Meanwhile, Lin Jin sat in his consultation hall as usual, appraising and treating beasts. He wasn't planning on going to the Friar Association today. Or rather, he wouldn't go if there wasn't anything else. Because he had already decided on the spells he would use in the upcoming Disciple Tournament. There were only 2. One was Fire Spirit Possession, and the other was Spell Negation. Lin Jin could learn and cultivate more spells, but it wasn't necessary. Quality was more important than quantity. These 2 spells were more than enough. Hence, other than appraising and treating beasts, Lin Jin spent the rest of his time immersed in these 2 spells, constantly deriving and improving them. In the afternoon, Jia Qian came by. She was here to return the evaluation report. Previously, she had borrowed the evaluation report of the injured deer from Lin Jin. She didn't sleep for the entire night as she studied it. However, she wasn't sleepy at all because she had learned a lot from Lin Jin's evaluation report. Similarly, it made her realize the gap between them. After the past few days, Jia Qian had thought things through. She had to bid farewell to that fake status and recognize herself. She was just an apprentice beast appraiser. She used to think highly of herself, thinking that Lin Jin wasn't as good as she was. But now that her false vanity had faded like a bubble, she understood. Beast appraising was her dream. If she wanted to improve, she had to make a decision. She wanted to learn from Lin Jin, which meant she had to be affiliated with him. No doubt, doing so would attract gossip and be looked down upon. But Jia Qian didn't care about that anymore. She had to lower her status and focus on her studies with a down-to-earth attitude. Only by doing so could she qualify as an official beast appraiser. Of course, she was afraid. Afraid that Lin Jin wouldn't accept her and wouldn't let her learn from him. But even if she was afraid, even if she was anxious, Jia Qian mustered up her courage and decided to take this step. Even if Lin Jin didn't want her, she wouldn't give up. She would keep a low profile and continue learning. Just then, she saw Lin Jin practicing his spell. Noticing Jia Qian's arrival, Lin Jin knew that she was here to return the evaluation report, so he said, "Just put it aside. If you want to read other evaluation reports, take them yourself. But remember to return them after you're done." After a long moment of hesitation, Jia Qian bit her lip and knelt down to pay her respects. Jia Qian wishes to be affiliated with Appraiser Lin and learn beast appraising skills. I hope Appraiser Lin will grant my wish. Having said that, she bowed. Sure. Lin Jin didn't even look up. He was currently contemplating the most profound aspect of spell negation. According to Schwebauer, Lin Jin felt that there was still room for improvement. This included the spell's incantation and how to maximize its effect. Jia Qian was dumbfounded. He agreed just like that? That was too easy. Lin Jin was clearly distracted. Was he still holding a grudge for what happened in the past? Was he just saying that to amuse or humiliate her? Jia Qian was stunned. After a long while, she realized that Lin Jin was still practicing his spell. Only then did she stand up. She took a deep breath and began tidying up the consultation hall. She served Lin Jin a cup of tea before sitting down quietly to study the evaluation reports. Soon, Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyun, and Han Dong returned. They had gone to the logistics department to retrieve their spirit stones and beast appraisal amulet. Obviously, they had helped Lin Jin collect them as well. However, Lin Jin had never used talismans when appraising beasts, so he rarely used spirit stones. Seeing Jia Qian sitting beside him, the three of them were stunned. "Why is she here?" Lu Xiaoyun asked in a small voice. Han Dong shook his head. Zhao Ying rolled her eyes at Lu Xiaoyun. "I came back together with you. How would I know?" Lu Xiaoyun frowned. "This Jia Qian has been picking on Master Lin for quite some time now. How dare she show up here? Her skin is thicker than a city wall." Zhao Ying had a gentle and forgiving personality. She advised, "Master Lin isn't such a petty person." Lu Xiaoyun said angrily, "So you're saying I'm petty?" When Han Dong heard this, he hurriedly dodged so that he wouldn't get himself into trouble. When Jia Qian saw the three of them return, she stood up and bowed. Zhao Ying and the other two had been apprenticed to Lin Jin first, so they were considered seniors. After learning that Jia Qian was here to study under Lin Jin, even Zhao Ying was dumbfounded. After all, Jia Qian had always been the association's #1 apprentice. In the past, she was much more respectable than them. Looking at Jia Qian's serious expression, she didn't look like she was messing with them. Lu Xiaoyun rolled her eyes. "So, I'm your senior now. Junior Jia, I'm thirsty. Can you brew me a cup of tea?" At this, Zhao Ying tugged at Lu Xiaoyun. However, without another word, Jia Qian quickly brought Lu Xiaoyun a cup of tea. Not only Lu Xiaoyun, but she also poured tea for Zhao Ying and Han Dong without any complaints or reluctance. She really brought it here. She must be holding back her evil intentions. "I refuse to believe that she'll suddenly become a good person," Lu Xiaoyun whispered to Zhao Ying as she held the cup of tea. However, Zhao Ying shook her head. "Xiaoyun, people change. Moreover, Zhang He and Wang Ji were the ones who were really against Master Lin. I think we should give her a chance. After all, I heard from her that Master Lin had agreed to help her." Lu Xiaoyun was furious. Master Lin has a good temper, so he couldn't bear to reject her. What if Jia Qian still harbors ill intentions? What should we do? Zhao Ying's expression turned cold. "If that's the case, I'll be the first one to come after her." Lu Xiaoyun chuckled. "Then it's settled. We'll observe her for a while. If we really get something on her, you mustn't be merciful." Zhao Ying nodded. Han Dong broke out in cold sweat as he listened. He mused, "A woman's world is truly terrifying." It wasn't until nightfall that Lin Jin finally figured out the key to spell negation. The so-called spellbreaker was a method to break the opponent's spell. For example, in a beast fight, if the opponent used the bloodlust spell, then the user could use the spellbreaker spell to break the opponent's bloodlust spell. The spell itself had no offensive capabilities. During the Disciple Tournament, because they couldn't use spirit stones to replenish their spirit chi, they had to be very careful when casting their spells. They had to use suitable spells in order to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Sometimes, the spell negation mantra could be very useful. For example, if a person expended more than 10 stones of spirit energy to cast a buff spell on their pet beast, the spell negation mantra would be able to destroy the spell. It was equivalent to a single move that could decide the outcome of the battle. Chapter 152. Battles of magical powers and beasts between cultivators were all about tactic, buffs, attacks, and spell nullification. There was a wide variety of spells, and when used well, it was common for the weak to defeat the strong. Of course, in most cases, the cultivator's blood contract cultivation and pet beasts level were still the key to victory. Spell nullification was powerful, but it wasn't difficult to deal with. As long as he cast a few buff spells, he would be able to make the spell negation mantra unable to find its target. Just like when he cast Bloodlust, Berserk, Gale, and other spells, the spell negation mantra could only break one target at a time. Under such circumstances, using the spell negation mantra again would not be worth it. After all, casting the spell negation mantra would consume a lot of spirit chi. In short, it was a matter of careful calculation. The greater the amount of spirit energy, the greater the advantage. Looking up at the sky, Lin Jin decided to call it a day. He still had to go to Mount Zoraku to teach Shang'er and the others spells later. Just then, there was a commotion outside. "Appraiser Jia, I heard you were here. Took me a long time to find you." As they spoke, someone entered. Lin Jin took a look at the man. He was tall and well-dressed. His appearance was handsome and elegant. Although he was around 30 years old, he had a mature charm to him. Lin Jin didn't know this man and his surname wasn't Jia. Jia Qian hurried over and said, "Mr. Wu, I'm no longer an appraiser. You can look for other appraisers from now on. There's no need to look for me." Jia Qian? Lin Jin didn't know why Jia Qian was still here. He had been focused on studying spells and vaguely remembered Jia Qian's visit. What happened after that? Lin Jin searched through his memories and remembered. Jia Qian said she wanted to learn under his tutelage. Did he agree? He couldn't remember. Countless alpacas ran through Lin Jin's mind. Speaking of which, although he didn't hold a grudge against Jia Qian for what she did, he had no intention of teaching her either. However, he had been too focused on studying spells today that he somehow agreed. But on second thought, Lin Jin wasn't a petty person, so why should he be bothered about something like this? Let her come then. By then, Jia Qian had spoken to the man. "Appraiser Jia, you're the #1 apprentice in the Beast Appraisal Association. Why are you here to learn under my tutelage? Is there a problem? You can tell me. If I can help, I'll definitely help." Mr. Wu said with a smile, but even a fool could see that this guy was plotting something. What were they after? It was because of Jia Qian's beauty. Having said that, he glanced at Lin Jin and shook his head. "This man is so young. I don't think he's even fully grown. What can you learn from him? I heard your Beast Appraisal Association has a new chief. Is he trying to make things difficult for you?" "Don't worry, I will uphold justice for you." On the other side, Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyun, and the others were all dumbfounded. They wondered if this person was a fool. He actually dared to boast shamelessly here. Lin Jin shook his head helplessly. "If you want to pick up girls, then do it. Just show them what you're capable of. Why do you have to bite people like a mad dog? Those who rely on belittling others to elevate themselves have basically never succeeded." Jia Qian was also angry. "Mr. Wu, please conduct yourself with dignity. If there's nothing else, please leave." Perhaps feeling embarrassed, the man's expression darkened. "Jia Qian, I, Wu Chunwei, am helping you out of kindness. Why must you reject me? It's been so long, and you still haven't been able to pass the Beast Appraiser exam. It's about time you start planning for your future. I heard that Wang Ji has fallen and you've lost your backer. That's why I'm here to help you. Don't be ungrateful." "Oh right, I'm here for a beast appraisal. I recently found a rare beast. Help me appraise it and form a blood contract with me." Having said that, he reached out to grab Jia Qian's hand. Jia Qian's face was already flushed with anger. However, she knew that this Wu Chunwei was no ordinary person. He was quite influential in Maple City. In the past, she wouldn't have been afraid. But now, she truly had no backer. It was best not to provoke someone like this. If she did, it would only bring more trouble in the future. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the side and grabbed Wu Chunwei's wrist. "Ouch! Let go." Wu Chunwei's expression immediately changed. When he looked again, he saw that it was Lu Xiaoyun who had grabbed him. She was a straightforward person who abhorred evil. This was how she was in the past, and it was even more so now. Although she didn't like Jia Qian, she couldn't stand watching Jia Qian being bullied here, so she stepped in. This isn't a place for you to behave atrociously. Scram. Lu Xiaoyun was very direct. She flung her hand away and Wu Chunwei stumbled a few steps back, clutching his wrist. Lu Xiaoyun might be a skinny woman, but she was quite strong. She had been cultivating some body-strengthening martial arts and spells with Lu Yunhe since she was young. An average man wouldn't be able to defeat her. Wu Chunwei's face darkened. His elegant and refined demeanor from before was nowhere to be seen. Is this how the Beast Appraisal Association treats its guests? Wu Chunwei gritted his teeth. Get your chief here. I want to have a piece of my mind. The Beast Appraisal Association uses its power to bully others and humiliate its customers. Let me tell you, this isn't over. Perhaps realizing that he wouldn't gain anything from staying here, Wu Chunwei cursed and left in a rage. He was probably going to lodge a complaint. If he went to talk to the president about this matter and put the blame on him, this matter would not be easy to resolve. Jia Qian looked worried. This incident had started because of her, causing trouble for Lin Jin and the others. Lu Xiaoyun, on the other hand, looked nonchalant. Jia Qian, since you're under Master Lin's name, you're his. We can bully you, but no one else can. Don't worry. Let that Wu guy lodge a complaint. I, Lu Xiaoyun, will keep him company. Lin Jin looked helpless. Xiaoyun, even if something happens, I'll be the one to take care of it. I'll be thankful if you don't cause me any trouble. Lu Xiaoyun stuck her tongue out but didn't say a word. Lin Jin turned to Jia Qian. But Xiaoyun is right. As long as you're under my name, you won't have to worry about anyone bullying you. If anything happens, I'll take care of it for you. It was a simple sentence, but it made Jia Qian's eyes redden, and her eyes became wet. From Jia Qian, Lin Jin and the others learned who Wu Chunwei was. He was the son-in-law of one of Maple City's top 3 families, the Shi family. Back in the day, the Shi family was undoubtedly Maple City's #1 family. Their influence was so great that even the Gao and Zhu families had to stay away from them, not daring to provoke them. The Shi family had been running a medicine hall for generations, but that wasn't their greatest achievement. What they excelled at was pelletization. Not only did they stand out in Maple City, but even in the entire Jade Dragon Kingdom, the Shi family's pelletization skills were ranked among the best. During their heyday, even the city lord manor treated the Shi family with great respect. Many nobles were their honored guests. However, a few years ago, after the Shi family's old master passed away, this once prominent family of Maple City began to decline. Their pelletization skills didn't improve. After all, with old Master Shi gone, there was no one to inherit his exquisite pelletization skills. Apart from that, the Chun family was also slowly taking over the market share of the medicine hall business. Although they still held a significant share of the market, anyone could tell that in a year's time, the Chun family would overtake them in Maple City's medicine hall business. The current head of the Shi family, Shi Wenjun, was Wu Chunwei's wife. Of course, Wu Chunwei was confident. But at the end of the day, he was just a son-in-law. When his father-in-law was still around, he behaved like an obedient grandson. But after his father-in-law passed away, he became arrogant. Rumor had it that he went around flirting behind Shi Wenjun's back and had dirty relationships with many prostitutes. So he's just a man living off a woman. And here I was wondering what he was capable of. If he dares to mess around again, I'll complain to the head of the Shi family, Lu Xiaoyun said. Jia Qian smiled. It's not that simple. Although Shi Wenjun is a woman, she's very capable. Without her control, the Shi family's situation would be even worse. How could she not know that Wu Chunwei is messing around outside? She's just turning a blind eye to it. If we really go to her, things might turn out contrary to our wishes. There's nothing to be afraid of. Even the Sure family is on the decline. They can't even take care of themselves. Anyway, that Wu Chunwei better not fall into my hands or he'll suffer." Lu Xiaoyun refused to back down. Lin Jin remained silent as he pondered. At the same time, he mumbled to himself, "That's strange. Why did I sense a familiar aura from Wu Chunwei earlier?" After a long while, Lin Jin finally remembered. It was the deer's aura. When Lin Jin observed Wu Chunwei with his spiritual eye, he noticed that the man's blood energy was severely depleted. Clearly, he had just broken a blood contract not too long ago. Usually, after a blood contract was broken, it would take several months to a year before the owner couldn't form a blood contract with another pet beast again. In other words, Wu Chunwei's request for Jia Qian to appraise his pet beast was just an excuse. He couldn't form a blood contract with another pet beast right now. If Lin Jin's guess was right, the deer's previous owner was this Wu Chunwei. Moreover, Lin Jin had deduced that the person who tortured the deer to such a state was its original owner. His hatred for Wu Chunwei had reached its peak. "Jia Qian, let me ask you something," Lin Jin said with a serious expression. Noticing Lin Jin's stern expression, Jia Qian didn't dare to be rude. "Please ask away, Appraiser Lin. Have you ever seen Wu Chunwei's pet beast before?" Lin Jin looked at Jia Qian. The latter shook her head and said that whenever Wu Chunwei went out, he would never bring his pet beast along. She had never seen it before. Lin Jin nodded. That made sense. If Jia Qian had seen it before, there was no way she wouldn't recognize it since she was the first one to save the deer. Interesting. Wu Chunwei had a pet beast but he never revealed it to others. He even tortured his pet beast a few days ago and abandoned it after breaking the blood contract. Either Wu Chunwei was crazy or he had an ulterior motive. Due to his profession, Lin Jin was naturally fond of beasts. He hated people who mistreated their pet beasts the most. However, even if it was proven that Wu Chunwei was the one who hurt the deer, there was no way he could report it to the authorities. The authorities wouldn't care about such matters. Sure enough, Wu Chunwei went to complain to Tan Lin. After Tan Lin found Lin Jin to understand the situation, she simply said, "If that Wu guy comes again, tell me. I'll get someone to chase him away." Lin Jin smiled. Lin Jin smiled. This was more like Tan Lin's personality. Chapter 153. With a chief like Tan Lin backing him, Lin Jin wasn't afraid. If Wu Chunwei wanted to cause trouble, let him. Tonight, Lin Jin arrived at Mount Zoraku a little late. By the time he arrived at Shang'er and the others' accommodations, it was already late at night. But when he arrived, Lin Jin was startled by what he saw. The little foxes ran over happily and climbed onto Lin Jin's body to act coquettishly. Shang'er strode forward as well. None of this was a problem. The problem was that Lin Jin saw a giant white ape sitting on the grass in front of him, looking at him with a cute look on its face. Why was the great white ape here? Lin Jin's mind was filled with questions. If he wasn't mistaken, this white ape was the one that escaped from Maple City yesterday. He heard that the City Lord Manor and the Grassy Continent natives had been searching for it for an entire night but to no avail. "Master Lin, I was just about to tell you about this," Shang'er said as she came over. Lin Jin finally understood what was going on after Shang'er explained. Last night, when Shang'er was returning from Maple City, she found this great white ape in a valley. At that time, she used a few tricks and managed to subdue it. After all, one was a beast with high intelligence, while the other was a demon cultivator with superhuman intelligence and knew how to use spells. When Shang'er wanted to leave, the defeated white ape followed her all the way. Later, seeing that the ape didn't mean any harm and had nowhere to go, Shang'er pitied it, so she brought it back and settled it here. Just then, Little Five hopped over and crouched on the ape's head, chirping. Shang'er said, "Little Five communicated with the ape through dreams. This ape is smart and knows that we're here to learn spells, so it wants to stay and learn with us." The next moment, the white ape got up, knelt on the ground, and kowtowed like a human. Smart as expected. This was normal. Lin Jin had used his coiled wire needle to appraise it yesterday and knew that this white ape's intelligence was almost on par with Little Five. If it wasn't smart, it wouldn't have been able to escape from the encirclement yesterday. However, Lin Jin didn't realize that this white ape was a beast that was dedicated to Tao. Now that Shonger and Little Five were interceding on its behalf, the white ape had knelt down. Should he accept it? It was up to Lin Jin to decide. Lin Jin was also thinking about it. The great white ape was a troublesome creature to begin with. Maple City's City Lord Manor and the Grassy Continent Caravan were looking for it, and they definitely wouldn't give up anytime soon. Maybe one day he would find Mount Zoraku. That was where the problem lay. Once clues were found, Shonger, Little Five, and the others might even be implicated. Lin Jin had to consider this risk. Moreover, Lin Jin still didn't trust the white ape too much. Shonger and the others were different. After a few days of interaction, they were as close as family. Lin Jin now understood the fox cubs' personalities. Would the great white ape be like Shonger and the others, naive and naive? Perhaps it would repay kindness with enmity when it became successful in its cultivation. Lin Jin couldn't be blamed for overthinking this. He had to be cautious. From Lin Jin's point of view, he didn't want to get involved in this mess. Glancing at the great white ape kneeling on the ground, Lin Jin didn't make a decision immediately. Instead, he beckoned the little foxes into the cave to learn. He had to reconsider this matter. Several hours later, Lin Jin finished explaining the essentials of the Qi formation and some incantations. Looking outside, the great white ape was still kneeling obediently. Although it would move its head and arms from time to time, it was obvious that it was still very respectful. Shonger was smart enough to know that she had said what she needed to say. Lin Jin would have to decide what to do in the end, so she stopped pleading. Little Five didn't do anything else either. Instead, the fox cubs came over to plead for Lin Jin to take the great white ape as his disciple with pitiful looks on their faces. Lin Jin sighed. "Get up," he said. Surprisingly, the great white ape could understand Lin Jin's words. It got up, its eyes filled with anticipation. "Learn from the little foxes first. We'll talk about whether or not I'll take you in as my disciple sometime later." Although that was what he said, it was just a test for a few more days. The great white ape was visibly excited. Its hometown was 1,000 miles away in the depths of the grassy continent. It was too far away for it to go back. Here, it was all alone with no one to rely on. Hence, when an opportunity like this presented itself, the great white ape wouldn't miss it. Mimicking a human, it bowed repeatedly. Lin Jin knew that the great white ape was now a source of trouble. If he took it in, he would have to clean up its mess. But then again, the top-notch cultivation methods Lin Jin obtained from the Museum of Deadly Beasts were meant for pet beasts to cultivate. To put it bluntly, even if he didn't take in the great white ape today, he would take in other pet beasts to learn from in the future. Lin Jin was thinking that with a group of successful pet beasts and monsters under him, he would have helpers even if he ran into trouble in the future. Moreover, Lin Jin was curious to see how much stronger the great white ape could become after cultivating the spell. He tried to explain the beast energy formation to the great white ape, and it actually listened attentively. Lin Jin could tell that this guy had been able to understand human speech for a long time. Cultivation wasn't something that could be done in a day. After teaching the great white ape part of the incantation, Lin Jin gave it some time to digest it before sending the great white ape out with him. For what? To clean up its mess. The City Lord Manor and the Grassy Continent's caravan wouldn't give up on the hunt. They might have found some clues, so to ensure that they couldn't find it, Lin Jin had to mislead them. Of course, the great white ape had done a great job in this regard. If it weren't smart enough, Any other pet beast would have been caught long ago. It wasn't easy for the great white ape to hide until now. What Lin Jin had to do was simple. He had to create the illusion that the ape was fleeing in another direction. Given enough time, Lin Jin could teach the white ape the art of transformation. At the very least, the ape could change its size. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy for it to hide with its current size. Riding on the great white ape's neck, Lin Jin had it head in the opposite direction of Mount Zoraku. When they arrived at a village, Lin Jin purposely destroyed a straw house used to store crops so that the villagers could see the great white ape. Then, they continued fleeing in that direction. Finally, by a large river, Lin Jin had the great white ape enter the water to erase its scent and traces. After making a big detour, they returned to Mount Zoraku. If everything went according to plan, the City Lord Manor and the Grassy Continent's caravan would be misled and run in another direction. This way, Lin Jin could at least have a few days to teach the great white ape. By the time they got back, the sky was getting brighter. Lin Jin instructed Shang not to let the great white ape out during the day and to stay in the cave while Shang taught it the beast energy formation and transformation skills. This was the best they could do for now. It had been a torturous night and even Lin Jin was exhausted. After returning to Maple City, he didn't go to the Beast Appraisal Association but went straight home to sleep. Over at the association, Zhao Ying was quite skilled and Jia Qian was experienced, so it shouldn't be a problem for her to treat and appraise beasts on his behalf. After taking a look around the beast pen, Lin Jin fell asleep on his bed. In the palace of a small country in Nanjiang Continent, Black Crow was sitting on the throne that belonged to the king in a carefree manner, enjoying the delicacies and drinking the aged wine. The royalty of this small country stood below him, trembling in fear. Countries were divided into 3 levels. Small countries were the lowest, with only rank 3 pet beasts. Intermediate countries had to have rank 4 pet beasts. As for premium countries, they had to have rank 5 pet beasts. There were countless small countries in this world. Just one city and one pond was enough to form a country. Take the small country Black Crow was currently in for example. Black Crow couldn't even be bothered to remember the name of the country. There was only one city here with less than a few thousand citizens. With Black Crow's strength, he could single-handedly suppress an entire country. The king of the small country mustered up his courage and said, "Your Excellency, our country is too weak to gather the items that you want." Black Crow took a sip of this country's specialty wine. "Gather as much as you can. But you better not lie to me or else you'll be the ruler of a country." The king shuddered in fear. He dared not voice his anger. Left with no choice, he could only gather the resources of this small country to gather all sorts of rare herbs for the other party. Half a day later, Black Crow left with the items and headed straight for another small country. After Black Crow left, the king of this small country was enraged, but there was nothing he could do. The other party's pet beast was too strong. Their country's guardian beast was severely injured in just one exchange. They had no choice but to concede defeat. "Your Majesty, it's not your fault that our country is weak. You mustn't blame yourself," a minister consoled the king. "It's a pity that the highest pet beast we can buy in this world is only rank 3. Otherwise, even if we were to gather the entire country's resources, we would have at least bought a rank 4 pet beast to bolster our nation's strength. We wouldn't have to suffer such humiliation." The king gritted his teeth. "Your Majesty, I have a plan to wipe away this humiliation." The minister said, "That Black Crow has committed all sorts of evil and has killed countless people. Who knows how many small countries have been massacred by him? He must have many enemies. Why don't we form an alliance and hire villainous experts to kill him?" The king's eyes lit up. This was a good idea. Their country was weak so they couldn't exact revenge. But there was strength in numbers. By forming an alliance with a few smaller countries, they might be able to get their revenge. "All right, we'll do as you say. But this must not be leaked. We must be thorough. Eastern Continent's shallow water country. This was a small country, but among its peers, it was considered one of the strongest. There were more than a dozen rank 3 pet beasts in the country, and it had many cities. Recently, it had been trying to seek help from beast appraisers from other countries to find an evolution method for rank 4 pet beasts. Inside the palace, Shallow Water's king was entertaining a distinguished guest, a rank 3 beast appraiser from an intermediate country. He was here to learn about evolution methods. The rank 3 beast appraiser was extremely arrogant. He had reaped all the benefits but still hadn't offered any guidance. This made Shallow Water's king anxious. Just then, there was a commotion outside. Battle cries could be heard, startling everyone in the hall. "What's going on?" The king was displeased. Immediately, a guard rushed forward to report that a woman had barged into the palace and was about to enter. "Ridiculous! How could a woman barge into my heavily guarded kingdom?" the king asked with a frown. The rank 3 beast appraiser smiled. "Looks like your majesty is in some trouble. But don't worry. Since I'm here as a guest in Shallow Water country, I'll help you solve any problems you encounter." Shallow Water's king was overjoyed to hear this. This rank 3 beast appraiser had a rank 3 pet beast with him. Moreover, it was a pet beast at the peak of rank 3. It was extremely powerful. Hence, everyone got up to push the door open to have a look. The rank 3 beast appraiser walked at the front with a swagger. But when he pushed the door open and saw a beautiful young woman carrying a swaddle, he felt like he was struck by lightning. Chapter 154. A Madame Ghostchild. The rank 3 beast appraiser was quite knowledgeable. In fact, Madame Ghostchild was quite famous in the countries of East Continent. Many people used her name to scare their children at home. She looked like a young married woman carrying a swaddle. This image was deeply ingrained in people's hearts, so it was easy to recognize her at first glance. The rank 3 beast appraiser immediately sobered up from his drunken stupor. He was so frightened that he didn't dare to move or speak. Rumor had it that Madame Ghostchild was a bloodthirsty killer who had once massacred an entire city in one night. If one was unfortunate enough to run into her, one must not move or make a sound. It was said that if one were to disturb the Ghostchild in the young married woman's arms, death was certain. Behind them, Shallow Water's king and the others gasped at the sight of Madame Ghostchild as well. Even though Shallow Water country was considered one of the top countries among the smaller countries, it was still a small country after all. Madame Ghostchild, on the other hand, had been ordered to be killed by several intermediate countries. Who knew how many experts were after her, but in the end she was still alive and well. From this, it was obvious that Madame Ghostchild was not to be provoked. The group froze on the spot as they watched Madame Ghostchild approach them step by step. Shallow Water's king? Judging from his attire, Madame Ghostchild walked up to him. Now, the distance between the two of them was only a little more than a foot. It could be said that they were very close. Madame Ghostchild was actually quite pretty and had a great figure. She even had a nice fragrance about her. However, Shallow Water's king didn't have the time to pay attention to these things. When he heard her calling him, he could only bite the bullet and say, "It's me." Madame Ghostchild smiled. "I came uninvited because I have a favor to ask of you, Shallow Water's king." Having said that, Madame Ghostchild took out a list of rare herbs. "I've asked the medicine hall, but they don't have some of these herbs, so I could only borrow some from you. I heard you have a treasure vault filled with treasures." An hour later, Madame Ghostchild returned with a bountiful harvest. The startled Shallow Water's king and the rank 3 beast appraiser soon realized something shocking. This time, Madame Ghostchild had defeated over 100 palace guards, but she did not kill a single person. On the central continent, Jade Dragon Kingdom was considered an intermediate country with many rank 4 pet beasts guarding it. However, there were many powerful countries in the central continent and Jade Dragon Kingdom was only considered below average. After all, the central continent was home to a premium country. Jade Dragon Palace. He-Ching was chatting with her sister, He-Yu. In the imperial palace, the sixth princess, He-Yu, was considered an anomaly. The palace she lived in was very remote, and very few people came here. The other members of the imperial family were also quite afraid of her. Only the seventh princess, He-Ching, had been with He-Yu since they were young and had the closest relationship. Ching-er, don't mess around. Why are you taking my blood out of nowhere? He-Yu's face was a little pale. She looked lovely and pitiful. He-Ching giggled and said half-truthfully, Sister Yu, I know that you have a bestial soul curse on you. Because of this, others don't dare to approach you. But I'm not afraid because I know an expert. This expert recently told me that he has a way to help you break the curse of the bestial soul, but he needs to collect some of your blood for him to see. When He-Yu heard that, she burst out laughing. You've always liked to play tricks since you were young. How could there be such an expert? Besides, the curse on my body is for the sake of the country. It's not like you don't know that it's impossible for anyone to break it, and it can't be broken. He-Ching was immediately annoyed. That's all nonsense. Why should the fate of the country be tied to a girl like you? Why, Father, he doted on you the most when you were young. Forget it, let's not talk about him. Sister Yu, I'm really not lying to you. The expert I know is really amazing. You don't have to worry about anything else. Just let me collect some of your blood. Having said that, she tried to use force. He-Yu smiled and stretched out his arm. If you want to pick it, I can't stop you. But don't be fooled by those scammers. There are a lot of scammers out there these days. Uncle Lou and I ran into one in Maple City a while ago. He took 1,000 taels from us, but all he said was nonsense. The man I know. He's not a scammer. Right, Sister Yu? Didn't you want to know how my tetra-winged butterfly dragon evolved to rank 3? He-Ching said mysteriously. Why, didn't you say that it evolved because you were lucky? He-Yu was stunned. That's a lie. I didn't even tell my father about this. You're the only one I'm telling. You know that my butterfly dragon needs at least 3 years to evolve. Appraiser Tan from the Beast Appraisal Association headquarters personally appraised it. But the expert I met just took a quick look at it and gave me some pointers. I followed his instructions and it really evolved. He-Yu's curiosity was piqued at He-Ching's words. Is he really that amazing? Then where did you meet that expert? I heard that you've never left the palace. Could he be someone from the palace? He-Yu was smart enough to get to the point immediately. This time, He-Ching was in a difficult position to explain. She couldn't possibly say that the curator had used an almost impossible method to split open the void and let her into the visitation hall. Even if she did, He-Yu might not believe her. Anyway, Sister Yu, you have to believe me. That curator can really save you. I promise you. In a moment of desperation, He-Ching let the cat out of the bag. By the time she realized it, it was already too late. Curator? He-Yu looked doubtful. This curator is the expert you were talking about? Then why don't you bring me to meet him? I'll take a look for you. Clearly, He-Yu still didn't believe her. Fuming, He-Ching didn't say a word. Instead, she swiftly extracted a few drops of He-Yu's blood and stored them in a special glass bottle. Inside this container, the blood wouldn't rot or dry. He-Yu caressed her sister's head. I know you're worried about me, but I'm fine now, aren't I? According to tradition, I can still live for a few more months. Moreover, Uncle Lou and I met a famous doctor in Maple City. His prescription was very effective. If it weren't for his prescription, I would have been bedridden by now. I wouldn't be able to joke around with you. What famous doctor? He's definitely not as good as the curator. Anyway, Sister Yu, I won't let you die. I'll definitely break the bestial soul curse on you, He-Ching said with determination. After He-Ching left, He-Yu finally looked tired. She had been forcing herself to stay awake earlier, but she knew that her current state was already very impressive. After all, the previous Cursed Lady of Jade Dragon Kingdom was already bedridden at this stage, resembling a dried corpse. She was considered to be doing well now. Lu Bin entered. He was holding a bowl of medicine in his hand. Inside the bowl there was a pill. It was a 9-water floating cloud pill. "Sixth Princess, how are you feeling?" Lu Bin asked. He stood up and forced a smile. "I feel much better after drinking the medicine that Uncle Lu asked for. Look, I can walk now and I don't need anyone to serve me." Right, was this prescription really given by that person? The person she was referring to was a young appraiser she met at Maple City's Beast Appraisal Association. Back then, she only thought of him as a shameless lecher. It's true. I can see that Appraiser Lin is truly a capable man. What's more, he's so young. That's really impressive. Lu Bin clearly had a high opinion of Appraiser Lin. After all, she owed him a favor. He recalled her experience at Maple City and said, "I couldn't tell that he was a genius either. I'm guessing that he must have been taught by a master." Lu Bin also deeply agreed with this. Otherwise, how could a young man like him know the prescription for the 9-water floating cloud pill? It's a pity that this 9-water floating cloud pill can only maintain the condition but not cure it completely, Lu Bin said. He smiled. How can it be cured completely? Do you think it's that easy to remove the 1,000-year curse of Jade Dragon Kingdom's royal family? Uncle Lu, I'm already very content. You and I both know how my aunt died in the past. A few months before she died, she was already bedridden and was tortured. Compared to her, I'm already considered lucky. Lu Bin was well aware of this. He sighed but couldn't say anything. Comfort? The 6th princess didn't need it. Despite her delicate and lovable appearance, she was actually a strong woman with strong willpower. Few men could defeat her. Also, we can't just take this priceless prescription for free. We should find an opportunity to help Appraiser Lin or send him some money, he said. Lu Bin seemed to have thought of something and said with an odd expression, I don't think it's necessary to help him for now. I've looked into Appraiser Lin's background. He used to be miserable and was even targeted by his superior. I heard he was almost kicked out of the Beast Appraisal Association. What? He was enraged. We can't just sit back and do nothing about this. Lu Bin quickly said, 6th princess, there's no need to be so anxious. Back then, I wanted to help him but I soon realized that Appraiser Lin is a remarkable man. With his own strength, he managed to reverse the situation. Not only did he pass the exam again, but he also became a rank 2 beast appraiser. As for the chief who framed him, he was kicked out of the association and stripped of his beast appraiser license. He was taken aback by what she heard. Although the rank 2 beast appraiser exam isn't particularly difficult, not everyone can pass it. But if it's Appraiser Lin, it's only normal. He quickly understood. If this man could tell that she was cursed with a bestial soul and could even give her a prescription like the 9-water floating cloud pill, how could he be an ordinary person? She was even more certain that Appraiser Lin was a disciple of a famous master. Uncle Lu, can you invite Appraiser Lin to Jade Dragon City in the near future? I would like to thank him in person while I'm still alive, he suddenly said. There was a hint of reluctance and helplessness in her voice. Lu Bin nodded. Chapter 155. Maple City. The Zhu family. Currently, in the living room, almost all of Maple City's reputable physicians had been invited by the Zhu family. However, all of them were frowning at their wits' end. Dr. Su, you're a leading doctor in the medical industry. You must think of a way to cure our third elder's illness. Dr. Zhang, you've been friends with our third elder for many years. You can't just leave him in the lurch at this critical moment. Everyone, the Zhu family is willing to pay any price for anyone who can cure our third elder of this strange illness. In the living room, the The Zhu family was pleading with the doctors present. But none of them spoke up. It wasn't that they didn't want to earn money, it was that they couldn't. An old doctor got up and was about to leave when Third Elder's son hurried over and said, "Dr. Su, what are you?" Dr. Su said helplessly, "Young Master Zhu, it's not that I don't want to treat him, but Third Elder has no symptoms at all. Everything is normal." Third Elder's son was enraged. "My father hasn't been able to speak since yesterday. How is this normal?" "That's true." Another doctor got up as well. "He's not sick and we can't treat him either. Even after careful examination, we couldn't find anything wrong. Perhaps there's some hidden illness, but our medical skills are mediocre, so we can't do anything about it." Having said that, he excused himself. The other doctors got up as well, expressing their helplessness and asking the Zhu family to find someone else. Third Elder heard it too. He was panicking, but no matter how anxious he was, he couldn't speak. In the end, tears flowed down his cheeks. He looked quite pitiful. But this wasn't the Zhu family's worst nightmare. The Third Elder was only unable to speak. What was even stranger was that the Second Elder and the Third Elder had cast aside Zhu Tianhong and voted to let the Third Elder's grandson form a blood pact with the twin-headed snake. In the end, the blood pact master they found was unable to successfully form a blood pact with the Third Elder. They even hired a few beast appraisers, but none of them worked. Second Elder took the opportunity to suggest that his grandson should try. But it didn't work either. Even Zhu Tianli couldn't find his direct descendant. It was just as Lin Jin said before he left. This two-headed snake could only be formed through him. No one else could. The Zhu family didn't believe it and invited Gao Jiang over. Gao Jiang was an official beast appraiser from Maple City's Beast Appraisal Association. It was impossible for him to not know how to form a blood pact with a pet beast. However, even when Gao Jiang arrived, he was still unable to form a blood contract with the child, even after fiddling around for a long time. That's strange. Why is it so difficult to form a blood contract with this twin-headed snake? Gao Jiang was also somewhat baffled. He had already exhausted all his knowledge, but it still didn't work. Out of curiosity, she asked around and found out what happened between Lin Jin and the Zhu family yesterday morning. "You're talking about Lin Jin? Lin Jin from the Beast Appraisal Association?" Gao Jiang asked with an odd expression. Zhu Tianli nodded. "That Lin Jin is too arrogant. Before he left, he even boasted that no one else in this world would be able to help form a blood pact with this pet beast. He thinks too highly of himself," Zhu Tianli said. "Did he really say that?" Gao Jiang frowned, now understanding why he couldn't help the Zhu family form blood pacts with pet beasts. After receiving Zhu Tianli's confirmation, Gao Jiang immediately turned around to leave. However, Third Elder's son held him back after much persuasion. How could he just leave without making things clear? At the very least, he had to find out what was going on. "Appraiser Gao, we have a good relationship, so you have to give me an explanation. What is going on? Did that Lin guy do something to this pet beast?" Third Elder's son wasn't an idiot, so he figured out the crux of the matter. Gao Jiang gave him a "why are you still asking me when you already know?" expression before whispering, "This Lin Jin isn't simple. He's a rank 2 beast appraiser with many tricks up his sleeve. Forgive me for being powerless in this matter." Between the lines, he was implying that Lin Jin had done something to this pet beast, causing it to be unable to form a blood pact. The Zhu family was infuriated. With Zhu Tianli taking the lead, he led his men to the Beast Appraisal Association to cause trouble. However, Lin Jin wasn't in the association at the moment as he was sleeping soundly at home. As chief, how could Tan Lin allow anyone to cause trouble in the Beast Appraisal Association? After getting to the bottom of the matter, Tan Lin simply said, "There's no way in this world to stop a pet beast from forming a blood pact." Then, she left Zhu Tianli and his gang hanging, too lazy to deal with them. If they continued to cause trouble, she would have them chased away. Tan Lin was unyielding when it came to doing things. Zhu Tianli was given the cold shoulder. Now that Zhu Tianhong was disheartened, he could only let second elder, third elder, and Zhu Tianli do as they pleased. I don't believe it. Invite a beast appraiser from somewhere else. Zhu Tianli bellowed. On the second day, quite a number of beast appraisers came. The Zhu family even invited a rank 2 beast appraiser, but the result was the same. No one was able to help form a blood pact with the two-headed snake. After 2 days of torment, the two-headed snake was on the brink of death. After all, blood pacts required the extraction of blood. Forget it, even the 2 grandsons of second elder and third elder couldn't take it anymore. Before the rank 2 beast appraiser left, he said, "This two-headed snake has a unique physique and bloodline, so normal blood pact methods won't work. I'm afraid you'll have to find someone else. But from what I can see, it probably won't work either. Perhaps this two-headed snake can't form a blood pact at all." What was he talking about? The Zhu family was exhausted. For the past 2 days, they had been jumping up and down but to no avail. Third elder, in particular, couldn't say anything. He was so anxious that he fell sick. Regaining his composure and recalling the absurdity of the past 2 days, the bedridden third elder came to a sudden realization and was filled with regret. They were the ones who elected Zhu Tianhong as the family head back then because he was capable enough to lead the family forward. However, after being incited by Zhu Tianli for the past few days, they lost their minds and did a bunch of ridiculous things. After third elder calmed down and thought things through, he felt utterly ashamed. At first, he only wanted to fight for his grandson, but in the end, the Zhu family fell apart and became a joke to outsiders. Reflecting on his painful experience, third elder finally came to a realization despite his severe illness. He called for his son and second elder and forced himself to write down a sentence on a piece of paper. Second brother, internal strife in the Zhu family will bring endless trouble in the future. Since we've made a mistake, we must repent. We mustn't make the same mistake again and let our ancestors down. At this, second elder sighed. In fact, he was already feeling remorseful. For the sake of a rare beast, he had disregarded his reputation and fought for it. Now that he thought about it, he shouldn't have done so. As the family head, Zhu Tianhong had always been fair and just. Moreover, Zhu Huan was indeed the most suitable candidate to form a blood pact with the two-headed snake. They were all descendants of the Zhu family, so why did they have to do this? Second elder made a decision. Third brother, I'll go look for Tianhong and that appraiser Lin. I'll apologize to them personally. No matter what, we have to ask him to remove the spell on you. At this, third elder's son asked, "Is it really that Lin guy who schemed against my father?" Second elder reprimanded him. "How dare you speak so rudely at a time like this? That appraiser Lin is amazing. We've invited so many people, but not a single one of them managed to see through his tricks. Just this fact alone shows how skilled he is. I'm afraid his future achievements will be limitless. Remember, from now on, whenever the Zhu family sees appraiser Lin, you must bow to him. Whether it's in the car or out of the car, you must dismount from the horse. You must never speak disrespectfully to him again. Speaking of which, it's Tianhong's foresight that allowed him to befriend someone like him. This might be a blessing for our family." Third elder's eyes lit up at this and he nodded profusely. Both of them had only been confused for a moment. Now that they understood, they knew what to do. As members of the Zhu family, they shared the family's glory and glory. If the Zhu family fell apart, neither of them would benefit. Hence, regardless of whether they were sincere or not, second elder went to look for Zhu Tianhong and stated that they would no longer fight for the two-headed snake's blood pact. At the same time, he made it clear that the two elders would no longer interfere with the Zhu family's affairs. After that, second elder, Zhu Xuanda, found out where Lin Jin lived and paid him a visit to apologize. However, no one answered when he knocked on the door. Although it was already dark, Lin Jean wasn't home. Second elder, why don't we go back and come back tomorrow? One of the Zhu family members suggested. At this moment, Zhu Xuanda realized that his pet beast was trembling in fear. This stunned him. When he looked again, it wasn't just his pet beast, but the other Zhu family members' pet beasts were also trembling in fear. The next moment, Zhu Xuanda noticed a rooster standing on the wall of Lin Jin's mansion. The moment the rooster appeared, their pet beasts became restless. What was going on? Why were so many pet beasts afraid of a rooster? Zhu Xuanda felt like he was about to collapse. His own pet beast was a Great Plains wolf, a rank 2 pet beast that was the most ferocious. But now, it was cowering behind him, staring fearfully at the rooster on the wall. For a moment, the situation was extremely awkward. Second elder. The person next to him called out. Zhu Xuanda reached out to stop him. 2 days ago, we spoke disrespectfully to appraiser Lin. So let's wait here for his return. Even if he only returns in the middle of the night, we'll wait for him. Only then can we show our sincerity. At Zhu Xuanda's words, the others didn't dare to say a word. They assumed that appraiser Lin would return after a while. Yet, they waited until it was late in the night and Lin Jin was nowhere to be seen. The Zhu family suspected that Lin Jin knew they were coming and purposely didn't show up to give them the cold shoulder. Zhu Xuanda couldn't take it anymore. But the old man was stubborn. After waiting for so long, if he returned now, all his efforts would go to waste. Moreover, since he was going to apologize, he had to show his sincerity. So, they continued to wait. Little did they know that Lin Jin would go to Mount Zoraku every night to teach Shang'er and the others about cultivation. Now, there was the great white ape too. Lin Jin wouldn't return until dawn. Chapter 156. Meanwhile, Lin Jin was instructing the fox cubs and the great white ape in their cultivation. Although Lin Jin couldn't cultivate the monster cultivation method himself, the Museum of Deadly Beasts had a near-perfect explanation. Hence, even if he didn't know anything, he could still teach them. Several of the little foxes had made progress, including the previously injured little Nine. These little foxes had completely mastered the first part of the ferocious beast energy refining art. What surprised everyone was the great white ape. Compared to the fox cubs, the great white ape was a faster learner. In just 2 days, he had finished cultivating the first part of the beast energy formation. Now, the great white ape was no longer a pet beast but a monster. A rank 3 monster. Lin Jin didn't continue teaching him the energy formation. Instead, like the fox cubs, Lin Jin taught them how to read, learn etiquette, and teach them morals. This was an essential part of Lin Jin's education. If he only taught them cultivation, beasts would still be beasts, and monsters would still be monsters. Hence, for the past few days, Lin Jin would bring several books that had nothing to do with cultivation to teach the monsters how to read. Among them, Shang'er was obviously the smartest. She had no problem learning how to read and write. Aside from cultivation, she would spend all day reading the novels Lin Jin brought her, engrossed in them. With Shang'er taking the lead, the fox cubs and the great white ape followed suit. They weren't as literate as Shang'er, so they would sometimes pester her to read them. Before Lin Jin left, he wrote down the transformation technique in a booklet and handed it to Shang'er so she could teach the great white ape. To the great white ape, transformation was the first skill he had to master. Only by mastering the technique could he change his size so that he wouldn't be so obvious. Moreover, transformation didn't only allow him to change his size but also his appearance. At the initial stage of this technique, he could change his size and appearance. If he continued cultivating it, he would be able to cultivate the transfiguration technique. When that happened, he would be able to take on a human form just like Shang'er. However, this wasn't something that could be accomplished in a short period of time. Even Little Five, who had been cultivating transformation for many days, was only at the beginner level. Transfiguration was still a long way off. Transformation could be cultivated after cultivating the first part of the beast energy formation. Along the way, Lin Jin wondered if he could let Xiaohua cultivate it as well. However, he knew that was impossible. Demonic beasts could cultivate ferocious beast cultivation techniques, but ferocious beasts could not cultivate ferocious beast cultivation techniques. It was just like how the blood pact technique could be used on ferocious beasts, but not on demonic beasts. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. By the time Lin Jin returned to Maple City, it was already past midnight. To his surprise, there were a few people standing in front of his house. Upon closer inspection, it was the Zhu family's second elder, Zhu Xuanda. Zhu Xuanda was an old man. After waiting in the night wind for almost an entire night, his face was ghastly pale, and he was on the verge of collapsing. However, the old man was extremely stubborn. No matter how the others tried to dissuade him, he wouldn't budge. He was adamant on waiting for Lin Jin's return. Upon seeing Zhu Xuanda, Lin Jin knew what he was up to. One was that the third elder of the Zhu family was unable to speak, and the other was the blood pact with the two-headed snake. These two incidents were indeed Lin Jin's doing. When the third elder was being rude, Lin Jin used the coiled wire needle to silently seal an acupoint on his throat. With that, the third elder couldn't make a sound. However, this wasn't an illness and most people wouldn't be able to see through the intricacies of the coiled wire needle. Hence, they couldn't cure him. To put it bluntly, unless there was a second person who knew the pulse-seeking technique and the coiled wire needle, Lin Jin was the only one who could cure the third elder. As for the two-headed snake, it was the same. Lin Jin used acupuncture to stimulate an acupoint on the two-headed snake so that no one could form a blood pact with it. Hence, Lin Jin predicted that the Zhu family would come begging for his help sooner or later. However, he didn't expect them to come so soon. He thought they could hold on for a few more days. Upon seeing Lin Jin return, Zhu Xuanda immediately rushed over in excitement. However, his legs were numb and he couldn't even walk properly. "Appraiser Lin, we were in the wrong. Please have mercy on us." Zhu Xuanda went over and saluted. One of the Zhu family members said, "Our second elder has been here since midnight and he's been waiting for you." Zhu Xuanda glared at that person and the latter dared not say another word. Then Zhu Xuanda said, "Appraiser Lin, I'm old and muddle-headed. Please be magnanimous and don't lower yourself to the same level as an old man like me." Lin Jin smiled. He mused, "If I didn't have some skills, you wouldn't have come here to apologize. What were you doing earlier?" "Mr. Zhu, it's a cold night. You should go back and rest." Having said that, Lin Jin was about to enter the yard. Zhu Xuanda hurriedly said, "Appraiser Lin." Lin Jin waved his hand without turning back. "I'm sleepy. If there's anything else, let's talk in the morning." Just like that, he entered the yard, ignoring Zhu Xuanda and the others. The youths of the Zhu family were naturally hot-blooded and angry. After all, Zhu Xuanda was an old man and an elder. He had already taken the initiative to apologize, but Lin Jin was still so heartless. At that instant they felt the urge to curse. Zhu Xuanda immediately stopped. "Hasn't our Zhu clan suffered enough?" The youths were immediately silenced, not daring to say another word. "We were the ones who were rude in the first place. Let's go. We'll come back in the morning." Having said that, Zhu Xuanda left without losing his temper. Inside the yard, Lin Jin was a little surprised, musing that Zhu Xuanda was a shrewd man. Lin Jin didn't care if the man was sincere or not, but it was impossible for Zhu Xuanda to ask for his help just because he apologized. "Lin Jin, I have a temper too." Come to think of it, Lin Jin could ignore third elder, but he still had to help Zhu Kan's brother form a blood contract with the two-headed snake. After all, Zhu Kan was his friend. Goldie leaped down from the wall and clucked at Lin Jin, probably asking for credit for guarding the yard. In the beast pen, the Umber Wolf had fully recovered and was ready to evolve. Moreover, the beast energy training technique had also improved. Even though it was only at rank 1, it would not be at a disadvantage if it encountered a rank 2 beast. The deer's condition was stable, but it would take time for it to fully recover. Now, Lin Jin was sure that Wu Chunwei was the deer's previous blood contract owner. He was the one who injured it so badly. What grudge? What grudge? Lin Jin grumbled. He returned to his room to sleep. But just as he laid down, Xiaohua let out a low growl in the yard. The groggy Lin Jin immediately woke up. Seeing flames surging outside the house, Lin Jin shuddered and immediately got up to rush out. There were more than 10 torches in the yard, on the roof, and in the beast pen. Even if Lin Jin was fast enough, the roofs and beast pens of the neighboring houses were all set ablaze. The fire was about to start. How could he let that happen? Lin Jin quickly put out the fire. Fortunately, it wasn't too big at first. After a few basins of water, it was finally put out. This is arson. Lin Jin's expression darkened. Xiaohua had been watching over him, but Goldie and the Shadow Wolf were nowhere to be seen. Lin Jin suddenly heard a commotion outside. He opened the door to see the Shadow Wolf returning with a person in its mouth. Not too far away, cries of pain could be heard. Walking over to the alley, Lin Jin saw 3 people lying on the ground. Their legs and arms were bleeding while Goldie was glaring at them. Needless to say, these were the arsonists. The Shadow Wolf and Goldie split up and caught 4 of them, especially on Goldie's side. All 3 of them were heavily injured with several bloody holes on their bodies, all caused by Goldie's pecking. Lin Jin splashed them with cold water. After questioning them, he found out that these were notorious ruffians in the city. Lin Jin didn't even need to interrogate them. Scared out of their wits, they confessed. They claimed that they had been paid to set the fire here. They were very experienced too, using torches soaked in kerosene to light them up and tossing them into the yard from outside. It was definitely a surprise attack. After getting what they wanted, they immediately ran. Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible to catch them. However, these ruffians had no idea that Lin Jin's yard was filled with beasts. They only managed to take a few steps before they were dealt with by the Shadow Wolf and Goldie. Who ordered this? Lin Jin interrogated with a dark expression. The ruffians didn't have any tough bones, so they immediately confessed. Wu Chunwei, this son of AB*TCH is asking for it. Lin Jin was infuriated at this. How could this B*** be so despicable? Needless to say, it must be because of what happened 2 days ago. But the problem was, Lu Xiaoyun was the one who twisted his wrist and Jia Qian was the one who reprimanded him. Why did this B** come and burn his house? Lin Jin felt like things weren't that simple. To put it bluntly, this was murder. If Lin Jin was the one who did it, he would be able to escape. But what about someone else? They were in such a deep sleep that they wouldn't even know they were being burned to death. Was this necessary? He asked the ruffians again, but they really didn't know. One of them suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said, "Sir, we were wrong. I remember now. That Wu guy said that the main purpose was to burn the beast pen." Burn the beast pen? There was a loud crack as if a bolt of lightning had struck. Lin Jin immediately understood. Wu Chunwei's target wasn't Lin Jin but the deer. Why would this gigolo want to kill the deer? What happened today was enough to report to the authorities. Arson was a serious crime, and it would be enough to make these ruffians suffer. As for whether they could bring down Wu Chunwei, the mastermind, that would depend on the authorities' abilities. Lin Jin called for the officers and handed the ruffians over. The officers were dumbfounded. The ruffians were all severely injured. To put it bluntly, if they were unlucky, they probably wouldn't live to see the sun rise. However, the officers knew that Lin Jin was a beast appraiser with a high status, so they didn't dare to make things difficult for him. After clarifying the situation, they left with their men and headed straight for the medical hall. If they stayed any longer, the ruffians would die. Lin Jin obviously wouldn't wait for the authorities to uphold justice for him. He had to take action when it was time. The sky was getting brighter, and it was no longer possible to sleep, so Lin Jin brought the deer to the Shi manor. As the Shi family's son-in-law, Wu Chunwei was obviously here to look for him. Didn't he want to kill the deer? Lin Jin decided to bring the deer over and give him a surprise. Chapter 157. The Shi family was no longer what it used to be, but the massive mansion still showed how grand it was during its heyday. Wide gates and a huge courtyard. There were 4 pillars and 3 gates in front of the mansion. It was early in the morning. A few of the Shi family's servants were sweeping in front of the mansion when Lin Jin arrived with the deer and Xiaohu. "Young master, who are you looking for?" one of the servants asked when he saw Lin Jin. Lin Jin smiled and said, "I'm looking for Wu Chunwei." "Oh, so you're looking for our young master. May I know your name so that we can report your arrival?" The Shi family's servant was well-mannered. After Lin Jin gave his name, the servant went to report his arrival. Lin Jin said he was looking for Wu Chunwei on purpose. He wanted to let the man know that he was here and see how Wu Chunwei would react. Moments later, footsteps could be heard. Then, more than 10 servants rushed out with batons in their hands. There were also 8 black dogs barking at the same time. Wealthy families would give their servants these black dogs as pet beasts. One reason was that it was cheap, and the other was that these dogs were good at guarding the house. If they encountered any thieves, these dogs were more than enough to handle them. "Release the dogs!" someone shouted from inside. It sounded like Wu Chunwei. The servants immediately released the dogs, but what happened next left them dumbfounded. The 8 black dogs scurried away with their tails between their legs. In the blink of an eye, all of them were gone. The servants had never seen something like this before, so they were at a loss for what to do. Wu Chunwei, who was hiding behind the door, was just as shocked. He came out and glared at Lin Jin. Then, he noticed the deer behind Lin Jin. The deer was wrapped in bandages and looked miserable. But after Lin Jin's treatment, it could now walk. A menacing look appeared on Wu Chunwei's handsome face. "This man is here to cause trouble. What are you guys waiting for? Chase him away." As soon as the order was given, a dozen or so servants stepped forward. Lin Jin suddenly said, "I've handed those ruffians over to the authorities. I'm guessing they've sold you out by now. Ordering people to commit arson and murder is a serious crime." Wu Chunwei's expression changed, but he forced himself to remain calm. "I don't even know what you're talking about. This is the Shi family, not a place where you can behave atrociously." Scram. Lin Jin couldn't be bothered with this man. He wasn't even afraid of beasts, much less a dozen servants. Patting the deer, Lin Jin asked, "Do you still recognize this person?" When the deer saw Wu Chunwei, it let out a whimper. There was a hint of sorrow in its voice. Isn't this the young master's pet beast? How did you get hurt like this?" "That's not right. Didn't the young master say that the deer died in the mouths of wild beasts? Why is it still alive?" The servants of the Shi family discussed among themselves. At this moment, Wu Chunwei's expression was extremely ugly. At that moment, a man dressed like an old butler came out of the Shi manor's courtyard. He saluted Lin Jin and said, "Appraiser Lin, my lord would like to invite you in for a chat." Wu Chunwei turned to look at the old butler with a pale face. The old butler turned to Wu Chunwei and said, "Young master, the young mistress would like to invite you in as well." Glaring at the old butler, Wu Chunwei flicked his sleeves and turned to leave. However, it was obvious that he was panicking. Lin Jin patted the deer and had it follow him. Lin Jin had never intended to pick a fight with Wu Chunwei over the deer incident. Who knew that the guy would actually hire someone to set the place on fire? If that was the case, Lin Jin would never let this matter rest. Entering the Shi manor's courtyard, Lin Jin was impressed by its grandeur. The courtyard was large and there were many rooms. Lin Jin had been to the Zoo Manor before and compared them to the others, The Shi family clearly had a deeper history. At the entrance of the main hall stood a woman. She was about the same age as Wu Chunwei, but she had a dignified demeanor. She was beautiful and could be described as cold and elegant. Needless to say, this woman was the Shi family's current patriarch, Shi Wenjun. Wu Chunwei stood at the bottom of the stairs with his head lowered, saying nothing. In terms of aura, he was already a notch weaker. As a live-in son-in-law, the woman was stronger while the man was weaker. Perhaps Wu Chunwei had been repressed at home for too long, and that was why he was so perverted? Lin Jin was just making random guesses. As expected of the patriarch of the family, Shi Wenjun took the initiative to walk down the stairs at the sight of Lin Jin. I've long heard that the Beast Appraisal Association is full of talents and that appraiser Lin is one of the best. I've been looking for a chance to get to know you, and today, my wish has finally come true. Shi Wenjun smiled. Her tone was just right. It didn't sound weak, but it wasn't as resonant and deep as a man's. Moreover, her words were appropriate and left a good impression. However, Lin Jin had never been one to play by the rules. Since he was here to pick a fight with Wu Chunwei, he was probably going to antagonize the Shi family. Since that was the case, why should he put on an act? And so, Lin Jin said, Patriarch Shi, I'm here to lodge a complaint. Simple and straightforward. Shi Wenjun's expression remained unchanged as she waved at the servants. You may leave. It was obvious that Shi Wenjun had the final say in the Shi family. At her command, the servants hurried away, leaving only Shi Wenjun, Wu Chunwei, and Lin Jin in the yard. Wu Chunwei wanted to leave too, but Shi Wenjun stopped him. Darling, this is related to you. You can't just run away. Wu Chunwei gritted his teeth and stood still. Appraiser Lin, if you have anything to say, let's talk inside. Having said that, Shi Wenjun gestured for him to enter. In the living room, Lin Jin pointed at Wu Chunwei and said, This husband of yours instigated those ruffians to start a fire in the middle of the night. If I hadn't discovered it in time, not only would I have lost my house, my life would have been in danger. Hearing this, Shi Wenjun's expression also changed. She looked at Wu Chunwei, who seemed to want to explain himself. However, he knew that if those ruffians were caught, they would definitely sell him out. He knew that denying it was useless. So, he decided to keep quiet. Moreover, Wu Chunwei looked like he was in a daze. Darling, is what appraiser Lin said true? Shi Wenjun asked. Flustered, Wu Chunwei could only nod impatiently. Shi Wenjun's expression darkened. Darling, a human life is at stake. How could you be so reckless? Fortunately, appraiser Lin is safe and sound. Otherwise, you would be committing murder. Although it was a reprimand, it was obvious that she was biased. At Shi Wenjun's outburst, Wu Chunwei cowered and kept quiet with a dark expression. Clearly, Shi Wenjun was in charge of all matters in the family. Lin Jin also noticed something interesting. Since the beginning, Shi Wenjun had been the one speaking, while Wu Chunwei had remained silent. Appraiser Lin, this is my husband's fault. I apologize to you on his behalf. I'm willing to pay 10 times the damage to the house. This isn't to absolve him of his crime. I'll personally send him to the authorities later to explain the situation. If he should be imprisoned, so be it. If he should be punished, so be it. The Shi family will never be biased. Lin Jin couldn't find any fault with Shi Wenjun's words. This woman was impressive. It was no wonder she could support the entire Shi family. She was smart and domineering. Logically speaking, Lin Jin wasn't in a position to say anything in this situation. Apologize, compensate, and admit guilt. What else could he ask for? He had come here aggressively to denounce Shi Wenjun, but it felt like he had punched thin air. His goal was achieved, but it still wasn't enough to vent his anger. Lin Jin decided to take his leave. With his goal achieved, there was no need for him to stay any longer. Lin Jin got up and headed outside. Shi Wenjun came out to send him off. Only then did she notice the deer waiting outside. She was stunned. She hadn't noticed it before. After taking a closer look, Shi Wenjun's expression immediately changed. Appraiser Lin, please wait. Shi Wenjun's voice was no longer as calm and collected as before. Lin Jin turned to glance at the stern and capable female lord and saw her hurrying over. Behind him, Wu Chunwei's face was ashen at the sight of this. Shi Wenjun's eyes were trained on the deer. Once she got closer, she sized it up. Finally, she called out tentatively, "Duor?" The deer immediately went over and rubbed its head against Shi Wenjun's hand. In an instant, Shi Wenjun's tears began streaming down her face. "Duor, didn't you die from a wild beast attack?" You didn't die?" As smart as Shi Wenjun was, she immediately figured out what was going on. She turned to Wu Chunwei, but the latter averted her gaze, afraid to meet her eyes. Lin Jin was close enough to see Shi Wenjun's fingers trembling. The deer and Shi Wenjun must have some sort of relationship, or else this woman wouldn't be so agitated. Moreover, Wu Chunwei had tortured the deer to death, thinking it would surely die. Hence, he must have come up with a lie to deceive Shi Wenjun. Otherwise, why would she react this way? Caressing the numerous wounds on the deer's body and the spot where its antlers were severed, Shi Wenjun's expression changed several times before she suddenly said, "I thought it was odd. Darling, although you've always been domineering and arrogant, you wouldn't be so bold as to harm someone's life. Now I understand. You sent people to set the fire so you could burn Duor to death, am I right?" Wu Chunwei remained silent, refusing to meet Shi Wenjun's gaze. Then, Shi Wenjun bowed at Lin Jin. "Appraiser Lin, can you tell me how you saved Duor?" By Duor she meant the deer. There was nothing to hide, so Lin Jin recounted how the deer was discovered 2 days ago, brought to the Beast Appraisal Association, and how it was treated. Shi Wenjun took a deep breath and bowed again. If it weren't for Appraiser Lin's extraordinary medical skills, Duor might not have survived this ordeal. I've lost my composure earlier, and I hope Appraiser Lin won't laugh at me. It's only because I've raised Duor since young that I couldn't control my emotions. Lin Jin was enlightened. Having said that, Shi Wenjun added, "Appraiser Lin, please step back. I need to settle some family matters." Even now, Shi Wenjun remained courteous, unwilling to let outsiders know about the conflict within the Shi family. As a prominent family, they couldn't afford to lose face. Family matters had to be handled behind closed doors. Unbeknownst to her, Wu Chunwei's patience had reached its limit. Suddenly, he sneered. "Shi Wenjun, stop putting on an act. Aren't you just trying to send people away so you can question and interrogate me to show off your might? There's no need for that. I'll tell you right now that I've had enough. I was the one who injured this animal. I clearly wanted to kill it, but who knew this animal would be so tenacious that it didn't die even after I pierced its innards with a sharp blade. That Lin fella is such a busybody. When I saw him outside the Beast Appraisal Association that day, I made up my mind to kill it. That's why I ordered my men to set the place on fire." Chapter 158. Why? Shi Wenjun asked. She was obviously angry, surprised, and confused. Wu Chunwei scoffed. "Why? Don't you know? Shi Wenjun, the Shi family is rich and powerful. You forced my parents to marry me into your family. Don't tell me you don't know." Wu Chunwei was going all out. He raised his voice. "The Shi family has always treated you well." Shi Wenjun's face was pained. "Your parents agreed to what happened back then." "Shut up." Wu Chunwei was like a dog whose tail had been stepped on. He yelled, "Don't you dare mention my parents. All these years, I married into the Shi family. Do you think I'm human? Even when I went back to visit my parents, I had to ask for your permission. Because of this, my parents couldn't hold their heads up high at home. They were ridiculed. As their son, I couldn't bear the guilt. Before they died, outsiders said that they didn't have a son. But they did, and that's me." Wu Chunwei looked like he had gone mad. His eyes were wide open like a patient. The Sure family has tried our best to help my parents, but they're old and weak. Death is inevitable. It's not something a human can resist. Sure Wenjun sighed. Wu Chunwei had calmed down a little, but he was still agitated. Sure Wenjun, when have you ever thought about how I feel? When I'm outside, everyone says that I'm the Sure family's son-in-law, and that I'm living off a woman. Even some of the servants in the manor don't take me seriously. I'm just like a dog raised by the Sure family. I've only survived until now because of the Sure family's charity. I can see this in your eyes. That's why I hate you. I hate the Sure family. At this time, Wu Chunwei said as if venting his anger, and this stupid deer that you forced me to form a blood contract with, I've long disliked it, so I found an opportunity to take it out into the wild and stab it with a knife and chop it with an axe. At that moment, I, Wu Chunwei, felt that I was a man who didn't need to listen to a woman like you yelling and ordering me around all day long. Also, I felt like I was taking revenge on you. Sure Wenjun's expression was ugly. She took a few steps forward and gave Wu Chunwei a tight slap. It was very loud. Wu Chunwei did not dodge. However, his expression became even more ferocious and perverted. Seeing his current state, forget Sure Wenjun, even Lin Jin was tempted to give him a tight slap. It was too infuriating. Sure Wenjun, you hit me? Fine, beat me to death if you have the guts. In any case, you don't see me as a human. Oh right, that father of yours is also a good-for-nothing. Back then, I humbly asked him for advice on alchemy, and guess what that old thing said? He told me that my surname was Wu, not Sure, and that I wasn't worthy to learn it. From that moment on, I knew that the Sure family didn't take me seriously at all. You guarded against me like I was a thief. Enough! Sure Wenjun clenched her fists and said coldly, Wu Chunwei, you and I are husband and wife. My father sees you as his own, but the art of alchemy is a rule passed down by our ancestors. It's not just you, my mother and my aunt can't learn it either. You know this very well. Also, I, Sure Wenjun, have always been respectful to my in-laws. I've never been disrespectful to them, nor have I ever said anything disrespectful. But today you've spoken rudely to my father. I, Sure Wenjun, am unfilial and will not tolerate you any longer. Leave. Leave the Sure family. I, Sure Wenjun, am divorcing you today. If you're not willing to be the Sure family's son-in-law, then don't be. Wu Chunwei sneered and left at once. But just as he reached the door, he seemed to have remembered something. He turned back and said, Your Sure family looks down on me, Wu Chunwei, but I will be the one to bury your family. If you don't believe me, just wait and see. Having said that, he left with a smile. Trying to run? Not a chance. Lin Jin patted Xiaohua and the latter immediately chased after him, pouncing on Wu Chunwei outside. Wu Chunwei's face hit the ground and his face was smeared with blood. Being a coward, Wu Chunwei was so frightened that he didn't dare to move a muscle. Sure Wenjun couldn't be bothered with him anymore. Truth be told, Lin Jin was dumbstruck by the entire incident. These two were at each other's throats. What did they mean by a day as husband and wife means endless devotion? These two were no different from murderers. Especially Wu Chunwei. Did he torture the deer just to get back at Sure Wenjun? This guy's brain worked in a weird way. If he wasn't satisfied with being a live-in son-in-law and felt that Sure Wenjun was too forceful, he could have divorced her or left. In the end, he enjoyed all the benefits of the Sure family but was still a scumbag. Sure Wenjun calmed herself down but her eyes were still brimming with tears. She forced herself to come over and said, Appraiser Lin, I'm sorry. Wu Chunwei's fate from now on has nothing to do with the Sure family. Duo Er's injuries are severe, so please take care of her, Appraiser Lin. Right, please accept this. Having said that, Sure Wenjun removed a jade pendant from her waist and handed it to Lin Jin. I'm indebted to you, Appraiser Lin. Duo Er's illness requires some medicinal ingredients. From now on, you can use this jade pendant at any of the Sure family's medicine halls for free. This was a great gift. It would be a waste not to accept it. He reached out to take it, his expression natural and unapologetic. According to Sure Wenjun, she was asking Lin Jin to take care of Duo for the time being. Lin Jin had no intention of chasing the deer away, so this wasn't a problem. As for Wu Chunwei, who was pounced on by Xiaohua, Lin Jin brought him to the authorities. This guy had ordered someone to commit arson, and now that the Sure family was no longer backing him up, it shouldn't be a problem for him to be convicted. Evil people would be punished for their evil deeds while Lin Jin reaped the reward. However, the development of this incident was clearly different from what Lin Jin had expected. In the afternoon, the Sure family's old butler visited the Beast Appraisal Association and found Lin Jin in his consultation hall. Appraiser Lin. The old butler went over to greet him. Lin Jin recognized him as the Sure family's butler. Just as he was wondering what he wanted, the old butler told him something. Wu Chunwei had been released. Lin Jin immediately realized that something was amiss. He had just sent Wu Chunwei to the authorities this morning. With those ruffians' testimony, he could at least pin the crime of ordering someone to commit arson. This was a serious crime in Maple City, so how could he be released on the same day? Appraiser Lin, those ruffians denied arson, but the authorities have evidence against them, so they can't deny it. However, they said they don't know Wu Chunwei, which means someone must have bribed them. Also, someone vouched for Wu Chunwei. With insufficient evidence and the authorities bribing them, Wu Chunwei was released. Appraiser Lin, those ruffians denied arson. After the old butler said this, Lin Jin realized something was amiss. Wu Chunwei was a loner. Without the Sure family to protect him, who would be stupid enough to vouch for him? It's the Chun family. The old butler revealed the source. The Chun family? Lin Jin was taken aback. Only after the old butler explained did he realize it was Chun Medicine Hall, which was also Chun Yuan's home. What a coincidence. But why would the Chun family help Wu Chunwei? The old butler didn't say, so he probably didn't know. He came here to inform Sure Wenjun because Sure Wenjun knew Wu Chunwei's personality. While he seemed cowardly on the surface, he was actually a vicious man. From how he planned to kill Duo and then ordered others to commit arson, it was obvious how he operated. That was, they would never come face to face, and would only do some shady business in the dark. Sure Wenjun was afraid that Wu Chunwei would harm Lin Jin and commit some other despicable acts, so out of kindness, she sent the old butler to inform Lin Jin so he could be prepared and not be ambushed by Wu Chunwei. Old sir, please thank Patriarch Sure for me. I'll be careful on this matter. Having said that, the old butler saluted and took his leave. This incident was strange. But to put it bluntly, Lin Jin didn't think much of the Chun family and Wu Chunwei. However, neither of them were good people. They were both despicable and shameless. Wu Chunwei went without saying, but the Chun family's Chun Wenlin was a hypocrite. When these two got together, it was just like the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. However, if they didn't know their place and tried to provoke Lin Jin, he could only blame them for digging their own grave. Lin Jin hoped that was the case. Hence, he did what he had to do. However, he still had to be cautious. Since ancient times, it was easier to dodge a spear in the open than an arrow in the dark. Lin Jin planned to go back and evolve the Shadow Wolf with the perfect evolution method. For the Shadow Wolf to evolve perfectly, he would need all sorts of spirit herbs. He would also need to refine a 6 Shadow Beast Soul pill. The Museum of Deadly Beasts had all the pelletization details, and most of the ingredients could be bought at the medicine hall. Lin Jin planned to make a trip to the Sure family's medicine hall. The Sure family had several medicine halls in Maple City. Lin Jin chose the largest one and showed Sure Wenjun's jade token. Sure enough, the shopkeeper's expression changed immediately, and he immediately treated Lin Jean like an honored guest. Appraiser Lin, our owner has informed us that since you're an honored guest, we won't charge you for anything you use, the shopkeeper said with a smile as he served Lin Jean tea. Lin Jean replied politely, I'll have to take what I have to. The Sure family's medicine hall is the largest and I need to refine a pill and I'm lacking 2 ingredients. I wonder if you have them here. The shopkeeper gestured for Lin Jean to speak. Lin Jean answered, one is the dark sunflower and the other is a rank 1 superior beast soul. These 2 items were indeed difficult to find. Under normal circumstances, one wouldn't be able to buy them even if they had the money. The beast soul that Lin Jean gave Xiaohua for the perfect evolution was also one from Lu Xiaoyun. Lu Xiaoyun's beast soul was given to her by Lu Yunhe. It was said that it took him a lot of effort to get it. As for the dark sunflower, none of the medicine hall's employees outside had heard of it. But since it was mentioned in the Museum of Deadly Beasts, it must exist. The shopkeeper pondered for a moment but didn't reply immediately. Instead, he asked Lin Jean to wait for a moment. Lin Jean wasn't in a hurry, so he sat there and drank his tea. Moments later, footsteps could be heard from outside. Then, someone lifted the curtain and entered. It wasn't the shopkeeper but Shi Wenjun. She had come personally. Chapter 159. Appraiser Lin. Shi Wenjun looked a little haggard, but that was to be expected. As a woman, it wasn't easy to manage a family. Now that she was divorcing her husband, there was no way she could keep it a secret. People would surely gossip about it and she was under a lot of pressure. However, Shi Wenjun had a strong personality, so she should be fine. Lord Shi, what brings you here personally? Lin Jean got up and saluted her. This time, Shi Wenjun was accompanied by a white deer. It wasn't big but it was lively. It must be Shi Wenjun's pet beast. Whenever he saw a pet beast now, he had the urge to add it to the Museum of Deadly Beasts. Hence, he waved at it. What a beautiful white deer. Come, let me touch. No, let me see. Lin Jean beckoned and the white deer walked over on its own. It rubbed its antlers against Lin Jin's palm in a docile manner. Shi Wenjun's eyes glinted at this, but she didn't ask. Instead, she smiled and said, I happen to be visiting the medicine hall. I heard that Appraiser Lin was here, so I came up. After a pause, Shi Wenjun took out 2 items and placed them on the table. This is the Een sunflower and a rank 1 superior grade beast soul. Appraiser Lin didn't specify the beast soul's attribute, so I took the liberty to get a Een attribute beast soul. I wonder if this will do? Shi Wenjun asked with a smile. Lin Jean was surprised. The Shi family was impressive. To think they managed to gather everything in such a short time. Lin Jean had also neglected to mention the attribute of the beast soul he needed. Shi Wenjun's suggestion of bringing a Een attribute beast soul was just right. After giving it some thought, Lin Jean felt relieved. The Shi family's forte wasn't their medicine hall but their pelletization. This was a well-known fact. Since they were in the field of pelletization, they must know the principles behind it. It wasn't surprising that she knew this. Lin Jean patted the white deer's head, and it obediently returned to Shi Wenjun's side. This white deer was indeed a rare and extraordinary beast. Although it was only rank 2, its abilities were outstanding, and it had the innate ability to search for medicine. A deer like this was definitely a perfect fit for a medicine shop owner. Suddenly, Shi Wenjun said, My pet beast, Bayer and Duo were born from the same mother. But because I can only form a blood pact with one pet beast, I chose Bayer. I thought it would help Duo find a good home, but who knew it would almost lose its life. Fortunately, Appraiser Lin was kind enough to save her. If it's possible, I'd like Bayer to meet Duo. Could Lin Jean say no? Definitely. Neither of them mentioned anything about Wu Chunwei. One didn't want to talk about it, and the other didn't want to, so they talked about other topics. Appraiser Lin, do you know pelletization as well? Shi Wenjun asked. Although she seemed nonchalant, she was actually quite concerned about this question. Lin Jin smiled. I know a thing or two. He really did know a thing or two about pelletization. Lin Jin didn't know much about pelletization. He relied entirely on the Museum of Deadly Beasts for pelletization. Just like with the 6 Sun Beast Soul Pill, Lin Jin only needed to follow the steps and take it step by step. He didn't have to worry about the complicated pharmacology and the more difficult pelletization technique. It was just like an exam. Some people would study 10,000 books just to answer a single question. But Lin Jin didn't have to study because he had the answer to that question. And the result was the same. Those who didn't know the inside story would assume that Lin Jin was knowledgeable and skillful. Shi Wenjun added, Appraiser Lin is truly knowledgeable. I've been learning pelletization since I was young, but my aptitude is only average. I'm probably not even 20% as good as my father. Shi Wenjun's father was said to be an amazing alchemist. This was something Lin Jin was quite impressed with. After some thought, Lin Jin said humbly, It's a pity that your father passed away early. Otherwise, it would be a blessing to have the opportunity to learn from him. Shi Wenjun smiled. But our Shi family has several highly experienced alchemists. If Appraiser Lin needs anything, just say the word. If it's within our means, our Shi family will gladly oblige. Help? Lin Jin really needed it. For example, he still didn't have a pellet furnace. The last time he did pelletization, it was Lu Xiaoyun who secretly gave him Lu Yunhe's pellet furnace. Now that he had the ingredients, he couldn't do it without a pellet furnace. Even if Shi Wenjun didn't mention it, Lin Jin would have to think of a way to get a pellet furnace. But since she had volunteered, he might as well ask. Lady Shi, can you lend me a pellet furnace? Lin Jin asked sheepishly. Shi Wenjun was dumbfounded. You know pelletization, but you don't have a pellet furnace? Are you kidding me? Even the children of the Shi family needed an alchemy furnace when they started learning. How were they supposed to learn alchemy without an alchemy furnace? Of course, the cultured, gentle, and virtuous Shi Wenjun couldn't ask such a question. Despite her curiosity, she smiled and said, The Shi family has 2 things in abundance. One is medicinal ingredients, and the other is a pellet furnace. Appraiser Lin, I don't mind giving you one, let alone lending it to you. Generous. Lin Jin was overjoyed. As the head of a prominent family, Shi Wenjun was more than generous. Lin Jin pretended to reject her offer, but Shi Wenjun added, and only then did he accept her kindness. Appraiser Lin, our Shi family has a furnace hall with over 100 pellet furnaces. You can choose one from there. Shi Wenjun was obviously trying to befriend Lin Jin. After all, Lin Jin was a rank 2 beast appraiser. On the way to the Shi manor, Lin Jin asked again, do you have pellet fire? Shi manor. This was Lin Jin's second visit in one day. But unlike before, he was here to cause trouble. This time, he was here to take something. Even Lin Jin found it rather shameless. Of course we do. Our Shi family has 3 furnaces in Maple City. They contain the energy of the 5 elements and can be used to refine pills of various attribute. Apart from that, we also have the refinement fire talisman. However, this requires skill and experience. Even the most experienced refiners can't activate the refinement fire talisman and direct the fire into the furnace to refine pills, Shi Wenjun explained as she led the way. Lin Jin nodded. The Museum of Deadly Beasts had records of this as well. Of course, it was only a detailed explanation of pelletization methods. For example, there were several ways to refine a pill. They were divided into external fire and internal fire. Each method had its own corresponding step. Hence, to Lin Jin, it didn't matter how difficult it was. As long as there were steps, he could do it. Both of them arrived at the Shi Manor's pellet hall. The iron gate was locked and Shi Wenjun had opened it herself. It was obvious that this was an important place for the Shi family. Shi Wenjun was probably the only one who had the key to this place. Besides, there were also the auras of some beasts. They must have been reared by the Shi family to guard this place. Inside the hall there were various pellet furnaces. Some were on racks, some were on the ground, and some, due to their unique attributes, couldn't touch the ground. Hence, they were hung from beams with special rope. Admittedly, the Shi family had a lot of resources. An average family wouldn't be able to build a pellet hall like this. Many of the pellet furnaces here were used by our family's ancestors. Some of them even possess spirituality, Shi Wenjun said. Chapter 160. Lin Jin suddenly thought of something and asked, Lord Shi, since there are many pellet furnaces here that were once used by our ancestors, they must be extremely important to the Shi family. It wouldn't be good if I accidentally picked one of them. Shi Wenjun shook her head. The Shi family has a rule that the art of pelletization is not to be passed on to outsiders. So if appraiser Lin wants the pelletization manual and pelletization technique, I won't give them to you. The pellet furnace isn't one of them. Moreover, the ancestors of the Shi family have mentioned that the pellet furnace is a spiritual artifact that can be gifted to anyone who is fated with it. If appraiser Lin chooses the furnace used by our ancestors, then it would be fate. In our ancestors' words, it's not about choosing a furnace, but a furnace. Was it that mysterious? However, since they didn't have such a rule, it meant that he could choose whichever pill furnace he wanted to choose. Lin Jin didn't know that the opportunity to enter the Shi family's furnace hall to choose a furnace was a rare honor even for a direct descendant of the Shi family. Shi Wenjun invited Lin Jin here not only because he was a rank 2 beast appraiser with a promising future ahead of him, but also because Lin Jin had saved the deer she grew up with. She wanted to repay him for that. Lin Jin looked around at the various pellet furnaces as his mind began calculating. If he wanted to pelletize, he couldn't choose a furnace with a single attribute. Although a furnace with a single attribute might be of a higher grade, it could only produce pills of a single attribute. Hence, if he had to choose, he had to choose a furnace with all 5 attributes. However, while he knew how to appraise beasts, he didn't know how to appraise furnaces. He tried to touch the furnace but the museum didn't respond. So what should he choose? When Shi Wenjun said that there were over 100 pill furnaces here, she was being modest. There were all kinds of pill furnaces here, big and small. Looking at them, there were at least 300. Some pill furnaces were very small, the size of a palm. Some pill furnaces were bigger, the size of 3 people. The problem was, Lin Jin couldn't carry these large furnaces, so he could get rid of the bulkier ones. Those that were too small wouldn't work either, so they could only be used for refining certain unique pills. So Lin Jin decided to start with the size. He walked around but couldn't find anything. He didn't know if the furnace was good or bad. Just as he was thinking if he should ask Shi Wenjun for help, he touched a furnace. The next moment, the Museum of Deadly Beasts shook. What was going on? Lin Jin stopped in his tracks. Inside the Museum of Deadly Beasts, loud rumbles could be heard and rays of light flashed. Then, Lin Jin saw an extremely strange beast. The exotic beast specimens in the Museum of Deadly Beasts were exactly the same as their original forms. This was also one of the wonders of the museum. In his hundreds of years of appraising beasts, this was Lin Jin's first time seeing such a strange creature. This strange beast was shaped like a goat, but it had 9 long tails, 4 ears, and goat horns. The goat horns were twisted and spiraled like whorls, with thick patterns on them. On its back, there was a pair of large green eyes. The goat's head, on the other hand, had no eyes. One could imagine how strange this exotic beast was. Rank 4 beast Bayan, a rare beast. Strong fire, weak water, weak earth, weak wood. Potential value 2 inch. The beast's body is dead, but the remnant soul remains. There's no cure and there's no advancement. Lin Jin's hair stood on end as he stared at the exotic beast specimen in the museum. This creature looked too strange, and had an odd name. What's more, it had 4 attributes, which was extremely rare. Moreover, it was at the 4th level. It was a pity that its original form was dead. After storing the specimen in the museum, Lin Jin opened his eyes and looked at the pellet furnace he was touching. This pellet furnace had a unique design. Now that he looked at it, it looked like the skull of this exotic beast. The spiral horns on both sides were real horns that had probably been melted with metal. Hence, those who didn't know better wouldn't be able to tell that this pellet furnace was actually the skull of a beast. It was because it was the skull of a beast, and it contained a remnant soul, that the Museum of Deadly Beasts reacted. Could this be considered an opportunity? Lin Jin didn't know how to appraise cauldrons, but a pellet furnace refined from the skull of a rank 4 beast was definitely no ordinary item. Since that was the case, he might as well choose this one. Having made up his mind, Lin Jin reached out and picked up the pellet furnace. "Lord Shi, what do you think of this pellet furnace?" Lin Jin asked casually. Lin Jin was afraid that this unique pellet furnace was the Shi family's heirloom, so he asked first. If it was used by one of their ancestors, or if it was of great significance, it wouldn't be nice to take it away. However, when Shi Wenjun saw Lin Jin pick up the pellet furnace, she was stunned. She said, "Appraiser Lin, why don't you change to another one? Was it really a family heirloom?" Lin Jin was disappointed. However, Shi Wenjun's next words made Lin Jin realize that he had misunderstood. "Appraiser Lin, my ancestor obtained this pellet furnace from an ascetic monk when he was out traveling. He thought that it would be a top-grade pellet furnace, but who knew that after he returned, he couldn't produce any pills with this furnace at all, wasting a lot of rare ingredient. My father tried it too, but to no avail. Every time the pellet furnace produced a pill, it would mysteriously fail and the pill would shatter. Ever since then, my father has left it here and no one wants it." Lin Jin didn't expect this to be the reason. Shi Wenjun was clearly doing this for his own good. However, this pellet furnace was truly extraordinary. Should he choose it? After a moment of hesitation, Lin Jin decided to go with this one. With the Museum of Deadly Beasts, he should be fine as long as he followed the detailed instructions on pelletization. What if your family's ancestor didn't know how to use it? Lin Jin was a little anxious and uncertain. But humans love to gamble, and Lin Jin was no exception. Seeing that Lin Jin had made up his mind, Shi Wenjun smiled. "Appraiser Lin, how about this? You can try it out first. If you regret it, you can always come back and exchange it for another one. It's a deal." Lin Jin was relieved. Now that he had a pellet furnace, next up was the pellet fire. The museum had detailed instructions on pelletization of the 6 Shadow Beast Soul Pill. You could use either an external or internal pellet fire. Relatively speaking, pellet fire was obviously better, so Lin Jin decided to borrow a pellet fire talisman. As an alchemist herself, Shi Wenjun carried pellet fire talismans with her everywhere she went. She took one out and handed it to Lin Jin. "Appraiser Lin, do you need this spell to activate the pellet fire talisman?" Shi Wenjun was very particular with her words. In Lin Jin's words, this woman had a high EQ. She didn't ask if he knew the spell to activate the pellet fire talisman, but if he needed it. Even though it was just a few words, it was a gesture of respect. If he didn't know the spell, it wouldn't be so awkward. On the other hand, Lin Jin didn't need anything that the museum had. The pelletization steps and the activation of the pellet fire talisman were all explained in detail, so Lin Jin waved his hand in thanks. "I have a pelletization room in my house. If Appraiser Lin would like to begin pelletization, you may go there. The pelletization room has a soothing fragrance and is very suitable for pelletization." Since Shi Wenjun said so, Lin Jin went. Outside one of the pelletization rooms, he met several elderly men. When they saw Shi Wenjun, they went up to greet her. After asking around, Lin Jin learned that they were all from the Shi family. They shared the same surname and were currently the Sure family's best alchemists. Chapter 161. Some of these alchemists looked to be in their 70s or 80s, while the younger ones were in their 40s. Knowing that Lin Jin was a rank 2 beast appraiser, they all went over to greet him. When they heard that Lin Jin wanted to borrow the family's pelletization room, they were stunned. "Appraiser Lin knows pelletization too?" one of them asked. This person was Shi Wenbing, Shi Wenjun's elder brother. "I know a thing or two," Lin Jin repeated. Another old man saw the beast bone pellet furnace in Lin Jin's hand and exclaimed, "Isn't that the cursed furnace?" Shi Wenjun explained the situation, and the alchemists were clearly unconvinced. They clearly thought that Shi Wenjun was fooling around and that Lin Jin was overestimating himself. Pelletization wasn't child's play, and he was using a furnace that would never succeed. Wasn't this a waste of materials? However, Lin Jin was a guest and Shi Wenjun had agreed to it. They were all very respectful of Shi Wenjun. After all, Shi Wenjun was the only one who could support the Shi family now. While they were good at alchemy, they knew they weren't cut out to be the family head. Hence, they supported Shi Wenjun. Hence, they didn't say anything. However, their curiosity was piqued. If it was anything else, they wouldn't be interested. But when it came to pelletization, they were intrigued. "Can we observe appraiser Lin's pelletization process?" Shi Wenbing asked. Obviously, the alchemist's permission was required to observe pelletization. "Sure." Lin Jin agreed readily. He didn't think too much about it. Since they wanted to watch, he would let them. Shi Wenjun's eyes lit up at this. She brought Lin Jin to the pelletization room but didn't leave. Instead, she sat down with the other Shi family alchemists to watch Lin Jin's pelletization. Shi Wenjun was curious as well. Because the pellet furnace Lin Jin had chosen was a cursed furnace, according to the Shi family's ancestor. It was impossible to produce pills using this furnace. This had been proven more than once. Yet, after informing Lin Jin, he still insisted on choosing this furnace. How could Shi Wenjun not be curious? Hence, she gave Lin Jin the furnace fire amulet and provided him with a pellet refinement room. She wanted to see how Lin Jin did it with her own eyes. Of course, subconsciously, she didn't think Lin Jin could succeed. She was extremely proud and confident of her ancestors' pelletization skills. Otherwise, the Shi family wouldn't have been able to prosper for so long. If her ancestor and her father couldn't use this pellet furnace, Lin Jin couldn't either. Shi Wenjun felt that Lin Jin was just being stubborn and trying to save face. But he would definitely fail in the end. When that happened, she could let him choose a new pellet furnace and she would also provide him with the pelletization materials. As the head of the family, Shi Wenjun had her ways. In recent years, the Shi family had been on the decline. The Chun family had caught up to them in terms of business and had even surpassed them. This was already a fact. Although Shi Wenjun wasn't bad at alchemy, she was still a little lacking compared to her father. In the entire Shi family, she was considered one of the most talented. Most of the other direct descendants of the Shi family couldn't even compare to her. It wasn't that the Shi family's pelletization skills were bad, it was their people. In order to reach a certain realm in alchemy, talent, perception, and hard work were both indispensable, and the former might be more important. After all, the majority of alchemy required the accumulation of experience over a long period of time. Just like a doctor, only with a long period of time could one reach a certain level. If the Shi family produced some outstanding talents, they would naturally lead the family to prosperity. However, everyone knew that out of 10 sons, 9 were mediocre. There weren't many descendants with high comprehension and talent. Even if they were talented, they could still suffer some mishaps along the way. Therefore, if there was a shortage of talent, this kind of family was bound to go downhill. It was actually quite simple to solve this problem. They just had to abolish the group training. Not only for the family's descendants, but also to recruit talents and teach them the art of pelletization. However, this was actually the most difficult part. As a woman, even if Shi Wenjun felt that this ancestral teaching was affecting the family's development, she didn't dare to abolish it. She could only hang on bitterly. Fortunately, the Shi family's pelletization skills could still hold their own. This was something the Chen family couldn't compare to. Shi Wenjun wanted to recover her lost territory and reclaim the herb market that the Chen family had nibbled away. How could she do that? Open up a new source of income. The Beast Appraisal Association had a huge demand for various medicinal ingredients. Back then, the Chen family managed to monopolize the association's supply of medicinal ingredients because they hooked up with the association's then chief, Wang Ji. Although Wang Ji had stepped down from his position, this supply relationship hadn't been severed. Shi Wenjun befriended Lin Jin because she wanted to see if she could use his relationship to snatch this business back. She heard that Lin Jin had a good relationship with the new chief of the Beast Appraisal Association. Shi Wenjun was deep in thought. Suddenly, she looked up and inadvertently caught sight of Lin Jin. Stunned, the messy thoughts in her mind vanished in an instant. Because when he saw Lin Jin activating the furnace talisman, he noticed that the mantra Lin Jin used was unusual. There were many ways to activate the furnace fire amulet. Some were simple, while others were profound. Shi Wenjun had been learning pelletization since she was 6 years old. She had memorized the various mantras by heart. But now, when she saw Lin Jin's mantra, she couldn't recognize it. This immediately caught Shi Wenjun's attention. She leaned forward to take a closer look. Lin Jin activated the furnace fire amulet with a spell and tossed it into the furnace. Immediately, the flames burned fiercely and the furnace's temperature soared. Based on experience, he should heat up the furnace first before tossing in the ingredients. Wait a minute, where are the ingredients? Shi Wenjun noticed a problem. Beside her, Shi Wenbing snapped. He put them in a long time ago. Shi Wenjun was dumbfounded, confused. This appraiser Lin has tossed all the ingredients into the furnace before activating the furnace fire amulet. This is ridiculous. One of the Shi family's elders shook his head at this. This was against the rules of pelletization. Shi Wenjun wanted to say something but stopped herself. How were they supposed to fuse the medicinal effects? After all, some of the ingredients had low melting points, so they would be melted into medicinal liquid. Some had high melting points, so they would require a stronger fire. But if they were to be refined at the same time, the medicinal liquid would be destroyed or the medicinal effects would dissipate. Either way, it was impossible to form a pill. Just then, Lin Jin's mantra changed. In an instant, the flames in the furnace turned green. Crimson flame to melt the ingredients and green flame to condense the pill. Is Appraiser Lin trying to condense the pill now? That's too early. One of the Shi family's elders was puzzled. Forget him. No one here could understand how Lin Jin was performing pelletization. They had spent their entire lives in the field of pelletization. Some of them had been doing pelletization for more than 50 years. Their experience and foresight were incomparable to the average person. But now they were equally confused. What a waste of time and materials! Unable to stand it anymore, one of them got up to leave. Wait! An elder of the Shi family suddenly called out with a grim expression. Fourth uncle? The person who was about to leave was stunned. He looked at the elder who called out to him with a puzzled expression. This elder was currently the most senior member of the Shi family. Even Shi Wenjun's father had to address him as fourth uncle. Fourth uncle said, "The pelletization technique Appraiser Lin is using looks a little like our Shi family's 6-yang pill brushing technique." His words stirred up a commotion. When the others heard this, they were all stunned. Based on what fourth uncle said, it does look like it. But our Shi family's 6-yang pill brushing technique is our family's secret technique. How did Appraiser Lin learn it? Everyone turned to look at Shi Wenjun. Chapter 162. Shi Wenjun panicked as well. When fourth great-uncle described Lin Jin's pelletization method, she too thought it was similar to the Shi family's secret pelletization method. The Shi family was founded on pelletization, so naturally, their pelletization methods were classified as top secret. According to family rules, the Shi family's pelletization methods were forbidden from being taught to outsiders. Under normal circumstances, even Shi Wenjun wouldn't have the right to learn it. Because she was a woman, women had to marry out of the family, and once they did, they would no longer be part of the Shi family. However, Shi Wenjun's situation was unique. The Shi family had found her a live-in son-in-law who married into their family. If she were to give birth to a son in the future, his surname would be Shi, so she was an exception. Naturally, she learned many of the Shi family's secret pelletization method. As for Wu Chunwei, he married into her family. Even so, he wasn't treated as a member of the Shi family, so it was impossible for him to learn pelletization. This was the Shi family's rule. But now, seeing how Lin Jin was using a pelletization method that resembled the Shi family's secret method, everyone began to make guesses. They turned to Shi Wenjun, thinking that she was secretly passing down the family's secret method. This was no small matter. If she really did it, she would be punished according to the family's rules. Even if Shi Wenjun was the current head of the family, she would still be punished. Wenjun, you. Shi Wenbing was dumbfounded. Shi Wenjun, on the other hand, straightened her expression. I've always followed the family's rules, and have never violated them. She was implying that she hadn't taught Lin Jin anything. Moreover, this is my first time meeting appraiser Lin, so how could I possibly teach him the secret pelletization method? Shi Wenjun added. The crowd nodded at this. However, the pelletization method Lin Jin used was indeed similar to the Shi family's, so how could they explain it? Could Lin Jin have secretly learned it? The crowd's gazes turned hostile. Secretly learning someone else's secret method was a huge taboo, and there was a problem with one's character. Once it was proven, the culprit would probably be killed. Fourth great-uncle glanced at Shi Wenjun. Wenjun, we believe you. I've been observing appraiser Lin's technique, and although it's similar to our Shi family's 6-yang pill brushing technique, it's just a similarity. Upon closer inspection, some of the details are different. The crowd's attention shifted back to Lin Jin. Upon closer inspection, it was just as fourth great-uncle said. Although it looked similar, upon closer inspection, one could tell that some of the details were different. Not only were they different, but there was also a huge gap between them. Lin Jin's technique was even more perfect. Even some of the flaws inherent in pelletization were eliminated in Lin Jin's technique. It was as if Lin Jin's secret pellet technique was the orthodox method, while the Shi family's was just a side branch. Fourth great-uncle seemed to have thought of something. His expression changed, and he looked a little excited. Wenbing, close the door. Seeing their fourth great-uncle's solemn expression, the others were also startled. Shi Wenbing immediately closed the door. Just then, fourth great-uncle watched as Lin Jin worked and whispered, "When you were learning pelletization, you've all read our ancestors' essays, haven't you?" Everyone nodded. They had been learning their family's alchemy techniques since they were young, and the ancestors' essay was the first thing they had to read. Not only were there alchemy chants, but there were also some rules and ancestral teachings. According to our ancestors' essay, our Shi family's ancestor used to be a wandering physician who sold and brewed pellets. He was an ordinary person, but one day, he came across a fortuitous encounter and came across an ancient pelletization scripture. With that, he was enlightened and created our Shi family's secret pelletization technique. That was how the Shi family was able to prosper for the next 100 years. In other words, our Shi family's secret pelletization technique originated from that ancient pelletization scripture our ancestor came across. Do you still remember the name of that scripture? Fourth great-uncle whispered. The group was shocked. It's the spiritual pelletization scripture. That's right. Fourth great-uncle had never been this excited before. It's the spiritual pelletization scripture. Our ancestor once said that the Schur family's pelletization technique came from his own understanding of the spiritual pelletization scripture. Unfortunately, the pelletization scripture our ancestor came across was incomplete and it was carved on the inner wall of a large tree. Later on, our ancestor wanted to make a copy of it, but he discovered that the ancient forest had long been burned to ashes. This is the will of the heavens. Our ancestor once said that if he comes across a pelletization technique similar to our Schur families, or even better, it could very well be the legacy of the spiritual pelletization scripture. Everyone understood now. They calmed down and studied Lin Jin's technique. Indeed, it was more complete and superior than their Schur family's pelletization technique. It matched what their ancestor had written down. The result was obvious. The Schur family's breathing quickened, including Schur Wenjun's. They no longer looked at Lin Jin with disdain and suspicion. Instead, their eyes were filled with excitement and respect. Because this appraiser Lin might very well be the legacy of the spiritual pelletization scripture mentioned in their ancestors' notes. Back then, the Schur family's ancestor was starving and had to hide in a tree hole to avoid the cold. That was how he came across the spiritual pelletization scripture carved on the inner wall of the tree hole. Back then, he didn't have a pen and paper with him, so he couldn't record it down. Fortunately, he was born smart and had an excellent memory, so he managed to memorize the pelletization technique. Even after learning pelletization and gradually making up for the parts he had forgotten, it wasn't the original version, so his realm was still far from the original. Now that they might have met someone with the legacy of the spiritual pelletization scripture, the Schur family was obviously excited. The more they observed, the more certain they became. Fourth great-uncle was so excited that his face was flushed. He whispered, "If we can learn the real spiritual pelletization scripture, our Schur family will surely soar. This is our ancestors' dying wish." But here came the problem. How could they learn it? Everyone was still scared. Fortunately, they took a closer look and confirmed that Lin Jin hadn't stolen the recipe. Otherwise, if they went to question appraiser Lin, they would have made a fool of themselves. Lin Jin, who was focused on refining the 6 Shadow Beast Soul Pill, was oblivious to the Schur family's change in attitude. He was currently following the Museum of Deadly Beasts steps to refine the pill. It was just like copying homework. And now, he was at the final step. The pill in the furnace was slowly taking shape. Although it wasn't complete yet, the general shape was clear. The pill was perfectly round and almost transparent, resembling a crystal-clear ice pellet. The pill even exuded a chilling aura. Refining a Yin pill with fire was difficult to begin with. Most alchemists wouldn't even dare to attempt it. However, at the final moment, the flame patterns inside the furnace stirred as if a beast's soul was ramming against the furnace. The pill began to crack. Lin Jin recalled how the Schur family mentioned that this furnace was cursed and that it would always fail during pill formation. This must be the work of the beast soul inside the furnace. Lin Jin knew that this beast soul was probably the rank 4 beast Taowu. After learning that it had been refined into a furnace, it was only natural for it to cause trouble due to resentment. Had it been anyone else, they might have been helpless and could only watch as the pill broke. But Lin Jin had a solution. He invoked a pelletization spell with one hand and a beast suppression spell with the other. In an instant, the intermediate wild beast deterrence he obtained from the Museum of Deadly Beasts came crashing down like a mountain. Intermediate wild beast deterrence could suppress beasts of rank 4 and below, be it dead or alive. Inside the furnace, Taowu shuddered as if struck by lightning. Not daring to cause any more damage, it shrank back in fear. At the same time, the pill was formed. Seeing Lin Jin successfully using the cursed beast bone furnace to refine a pill, the Schur family's eyeballs almost popped out of their socket. They had been so focused on Lin Jin's pelletization technique that they had forgotten one thing. This was a beast bone furnace that even their ancestor couldn't use. Generations of the Shi family's alchemists had tried, but none of them succeeded. Yet Lin Jin succeeded with this furnace. Lin Jin wiped the sweat off his forehead and glanced at the Shi family. Only then did he realize that they were all glaring at him. Chapter 163. Lin Jin jumped in fright. The Shi family was now like a pack of hungry wolves eyeing a juicy piece of meat, including Shi Wenjun. Before Lin Jin could react, the crowd pounced on him. Appraiser Lin is truly skilled. It's an honor to be able to witness Appraiser Lin's pelletization. Appraiser Lin is truly an expert in pelletization. I have some questions about pelletization, and I hope Appraiser Lin can enlighten me. Appraiser Lin. The Shi family swarmed over and Lin Jin felt like he was about to explode. Fortunately, fourth uncle cleared his throat to remind the crowd, and they finally calmed down. Appraiser Lin, I've learned a lot today. Sure enough, there's always someone better out there. If Appraiser Lin doesn't mind, why don't you stay for a meal? We can use this opportunity to learn from Appraiser Lin in pelletization. Fourth uncle was being very respectful. Lin Jin finally realized that the method he copied from the Museum of Deadly Beasts must have been unusual, or else the Shi family wouldn't have reacted this way. But asking for guidance was out of the question. It wasn't that Lin Jin was being stingy, but he really didn't know much about pelletization. If he gave him any pointers, he would definitely be exposed. Hence, Lin Jin flatly refused. He didn't have time. The Shi family didn't think anything was wrong. After all, pelletization techniques like the spiritual pellet scripture couldn't be taught so easily. If they were in Lin Jin's shoes, they wouldn't agree to it either. Now that the pelletization was complete, Lin Jin had other matters to attend to, so he excused himself. Shi Wenjun sent him off. By the time she returned, she saw fourth uncle discussing a strategy with the others. Now that there were no outsiders around, they spoke more freely. Then, fourth uncle said, Appraiser Lin is young and promising. Not only is he a rank 2 beast appraiser, but he's also an expert in pelletization. Do you know if he's married or not? The group was smart enough to understand what fourth uncle meant. However, they didn't know much about Lin Jin, so when they saw Shi Wenjun come in, they quickly asked about her. Shi Wenjun had investigated Lin Jin's background, so she knew a lot about him. Appraiser Lin isn't married, but he was once engaged. Before Shi Wenjun could finish, fourth great uncle panicked. He was engaged? Who was it? The Chen family. Shi Wenjun answered. What? The Shi family was shocked. In recent years, the Chen family, who also owned a medicine hall, had overtaken the Shi family in the medicine hall industry. Since they were in the same line of work, they were enemies. When they heard that Lin Jin was engaged to the Chen family, they couldn't sit still. Fourth great uncle's expression changed. This is bad. The Chen family has surpassed us in terms of medicine halls. If they bring Appraiser Lin over now, with Appraiser Lin's alchemy skills, our Shi family won't stand a chance. Everyone was filled with despair when they heard this. Shi Wenjun burst into laughter. Fourth uncle, Appraiser Lin was once engaged to the Chen family, but not long after, the Chen family broke off the engagement. Fourth great uncle and everyone else were dumbfounded. That expression was clearly saying that the Chen family were fools. Had Chen Wenlin's head been kicked by a donkey? How could he do something so stupid? Shi Wenjun continued, I've looked into this matter. Appraiser Lin keeps a low profile and doesn't compete with others. He has never shown his brilliance, while Chen Wenlin is a hypocrite. Although he looks righteous on the surface, he's actually a selfish man. Initially, he was eyeing Appraiser Lin's status as an official beast appraiser. But after Appraiser Lin was suppressed by the association's chief, Chen Wenlin was put in a difficult position. Coupled with his daughter's insistence on breaking off the engagement, Chen Wenlin agreed. I heard that after appraiser Lin revealed his brilliance, Chen Wenlin regretted his decision. He tried several times to mend his relationship with appraiser Lin, but to no avail. Haha, serves him right. Fourth great-uncle jumped up in joy. Heaven is on our Sure family's side. Heaven is on our Sure family's side. Shi Wenjun was already aware of fourth great-uncle's plan. She wanted to say something but held herself back. After all, fourth great-uncle was doing this for the sake of the family. Wenbing, your daughter Huilin happens to be 16 years old. She's smart and virtuous, so she can be a candidate. Fifth great-uncle, your granddaughter Ruodong is about the same age. She's a year younger than Huilin, so she can be a candidate as well. Fourth great-uncle rubbed his hands together as he made his arrangement. Shi Wenbing and fifth great-uncle had no objections. By marrying the Shi family's daughter to Lin Jin, they would be able to rope in this expert alchemist who had mastered the scripture of pellets. This was a win-win deal. Suddenly, someone said, "If only he could marry into our family." Fourth great-uncle frowned and reprimanded, "We're the ones begging appraiser Lin, not the other way around." "Marry into our family? Do you think that useless Wu Chenwei?" Halfway through, fourth great-uncle realized that he had misspoken, so he fell silent. Everyone's expressions changed and the atmosphere turned awkward. After all, Shi Wenjun was here and she had just divorced her husband this morning, chasing Wu Chenwei out of the Shi family. Wu Chenwei was obviously embarrassed by this, but the Shi family was disgraced as well. Shi Wenjun's expression remained unchanged as she stood up and said, "I understand fourth great-uncle's intentions. Using marriage to rope in useful people has always been a good strategy. As the head of the Shi family, I agree to befriend appraiser Lin, but we shouldn't be too hasty in this matter. Otherwise, it might backfire." The Shi family nodded. Before arranging a marriage, one had to ask for the other party's opinion first. Otherwise, a good thing might turn into a bad thing. As for Wu Chenwei, no one mentioned it again. After all, Shi Wenjun was the current head of the Shi family. If she divorced her husband, no one could interfere. Moreover, they had long disliked Wu Chenwei. Fourth great-uncle had said more than once that the man wasn't worthy of Shi Wenjun. Indeed, he wasn't worthy. Hence, a divorce was done. With Shi Wenjun's age, looks, background, and capabilities, it wouldn't be difficult for her to find another son-in-law. But soon, a piece of news reached the Shi family, causing a huge commotion. In the afternoon, the Chen medicine hall suddenly started selling pills that were identical to the Shi family's but at a lower price. With this, the Shi family could no longer sit still. Previously, the Chen family had already suppressed the Shi family in the medicine hall business. Hence, the pill business became the Shi family's lifeline. Now, the Chen family was starting to do the same. More importantly, the pills they were selling were identical to the Shi family's. This was akin to trying to take the Shi family's life. It wasn't hard to imagine that if the Chen family took over the pill business, the Shi family would definitely collapse. Hence, Shi Wenjun panicked. By the time the sky turned dark, the Shi family had already sent out people to relay the news from all over the world. There were two things that could be confirmed. One was that Wu Chenwei and Chen Wenlin had joined forces, and the other was that the Chen family's pills were definitely related to Wu Chenwei. Although there was no direct evidence, anyone with a brain could figure it out. Even if the Chen family wanted to start a pill business and hire a pill refiner, they didn't have the pill formulas. The pill recipe was the true core secret. Now that the Chen medicine hall was selling the same pills as the Shi family's, it could only mean one thing. Somehow, Wu Chenwei stole the Shi family's pill formulas and gave them to the Chen family. In the main hall of the Shi family's medicine hall, the shopkeepers from all over the country had gathered. All of them looked anxious. "Boss, let's report the Chen family to the authorities for theft," one of the shopkeepers stood up and said. Chapter 164. These shopkeepers had been with the Shi family for many years. Some of them had been employed by the Shi family since Shi Wenjun's father was in charge. They had a deep bond with the Shi family. Plus, their interests were tied to the Shi families. If the Shi family fell, they would lose their jobs. Yes, report this to the authorities. The other shopkeepers agreed. Shi Wenjun frowned and shook her head. There's no evidence. The Chun family's pills have different names from ours. There's no point in reporting this to the authorities. Shi Wenjun was very clear about this. Based on the pills alone, there was no way to prove that the Chun family had stolen the Shi family's recipe unless they compared the two families' recipes. But even if the results were the same, what would that prove? There was no solution. After all, they hadn't been caught red-handed. Shi Wenjun sighed. She knew that Wu Chunwei must have hidden the recipe from them, stolen it, or copied it down. This couldn't have happened in a day. In other words, Wu Chunwei had been plotting against the Shi family for a long time. Shi Wenjun wanted nothing more than to kill Wu Chunwei right now. But even if she did, it wouldn't change the bigger picture. Plus, a life for a life. Everyone, although the Chun clan has also begun to sell medicinal pills, their medicinal effects might not be stronger than ours. All they're relying on is the price. Let's lower the price a bit and stabilize the situation first. In the end, Shi Wenjun made a decision to deal with the crisis. The shopkeepers nodded. That was the only way. In contrast to the Shi family's gloomy mood, the Chun family was in high spirits. Around the banquet table were the backbone of the Chun family and Wu Chunwei, toasting each other. Young Master Wu, if we can defeat the Shi family in one fell swoop, you'll be the one to take the credit, Chen Wenlin said to Wu Chunwei, raising a glass of wine. The latter looked smug. Well said, well said. But don't underestimate the Shi family, especially that Shi Wenjun. She has a lot of tricks up her sleeves. We must crush the Shi family once and for all this time. Wu Chunwei's tone was laced with hatred. Chen Wenlin chuckled, wondering why Wu Chunwei hated the Shi family so much. But of course, he wouldn't ask. This time, he had teamed up with Wu Chunwei. Wu Chunwei would provide the pill formulas, while he would be responsible for providing the money and manpower. One had to know that this business had always been dominated by the Shi family. It wasn't that Chen Wenlin hadn't thought of entering the market, but he lacked the pill formulas. What was the foundation of the Shi family? From Chen Wenlin's point of view, the Shi family's heritage lay in the hundreds of pill recipes accumulated over 100 years. Frankly speaking, without Wu Chunwei, even if the Chun family could surpass the Shi family in the medicine hall business, they would never be able to compete with the Shi family in terms of pills. But things were different now. With the pill formula, Chen Wenlin was confident that he could crush the Shi family within a year. At that time, the Chun family would be the #1 family in Maple City. By the way, Lord Chen, I heard that your daughter was once engaged to that Lin Jin? Wu Chunwei, who was a little tipsy, suddenly asked. At the mention of this, Chen Wenlin's expression didn't look too good. Recently, he had been trying to find a way to mend his relationship with Lin Jin. However, the latter simply ignored him, and this made Chen Wenlin feel humiliated. In the past, Chen Wenlin could still hold his temper. But now that the Chun family was growing stronger by the day, there was a possibility that they could even surpass the Shi family. Chen Wenlin couldn't help but feel smug. Arrogance was bound to lead to arrogance. That was in the past. The engagement is no longer valid, Chen Wenlin said with a wave of his hand. He knew why Wu Chunwei was asking this. Today, he had used his connections to get Wu Chunwei out of the government's clutches. Hence, he found out that Wu Chunwei had ordered someone to set fire to Lin Jin's house. Lord Chen, I have a grudge against this Lin Jin. If you still wish to mend your relationship with him, we might not be able to continue our partnership, Wu Chunwei said with a hint of threat in his voice. Chen Wenlin smiled. I only wanted to use Lin Jin, but he didn't know how to appreciate my kindness. To tell you the truth, I've always found him an eyesore. If young Master Wu wishes to deal with him, I'm more than happy to oblige. Not only will I not stop you, I'll even lend you a hand. Alright, that's what I was waiting for. Wu Chunwei downed the wine in his glass, his eyes filled with hatred. If Lin Jin hadn't gone looking for trouble, Shi Wenjun wouldn't have chased him out. A woman divorcing her husband. To a man, this was a great humiliation. How humiliating! Wu Chunwei obviously hated Shi Wenjun, but he hated Lin Jin even more. Since that's the case, Lord Chen, how should we deal with this Lin Jin? Wu Chunwei asked. Chen Wenlin said, this Lin Jin has grown up. He's a rank 2 beast appraiser, so we can't do anything to the Beast Appraisal Association. However, I heard that he has also been admitted into the Friar Association and has a small conflict with Yang Jie from the association. At this point, Chen Wenlin didn't continue. Wu Chunwei was also a cunning and two-faced person. He let out a hearty laugh and said, as expected of the Chen family's patriarch, your tactic of using someone else to do your dirty work is indeed brilliant. Let's think of a way to turn this small conflict between Lin Jin and Yang Jie into a big one. It'd be best if they become mortal enemies. Having said that, Wu Chunwei laughed maniacally, his voice tinged with madness. Right, young Master Wu, let me introduce you to someone who can help us deal with Lin Jin. He's my nephew, Chen Cheng. Come, greet young Master Wu. Chen Wenlin suddenly said. Lin Jin was once again a guest at the Zhu Manor. This time it was completely different from his first visit. Last time, only Zhu Tianhong and Zhu Qin came out to welcome him. But this time, everyone in the Zhu family was there, including the mute third elder. This was a grand occasion. At the same time, it also showed how much the Zhu family valued Lin Jin. Zhu Tianhong stepped forward and said, Appraiser Lin, sorry for the trouble. Lin Jin waved, indicating that it was fine. Zhu Qin leaned over and whispered, Brother Lin, for the past 2 days, second elder, third elder, and even Zhu Tianli have been behaving themselves. They don't dare to go against my father on many things anymore. Actually, second elder and third elder aren't bad people. It's just that they were provoked by Zhu Tianli. Lin Jin nodded in understanding. Second elder came to visit again this morning, but Lin Jin ignored him as usual. The old man didn't seem angry, and from his attitude, it seemed like he really wanted to apologize and admit his mistake. Hence, why would Lin Jin make things difficult for an old man? His visit this time was to help form a blood pact with the two-headed snake. This was also out of respect for Zhu Can and Zhu Tianhong. As for third elder's inability to speak, that would depend on Lin Jin's mood. This time, there were no more obstacles to forming a blood pact. The Zhu family was extremely cooperative. After feeding the dying two-headed snake a pill, Lin Jin somehow managed to restore the creature's vigor and vigor. Just from this alone, Lin Jin was able to tell that he was much better than the other beast appraisers the Zhu family had invited over the past 2 days. The blood pact began. Zhu Yuan came over anxiously. Lin Jin took a drop of his blood and another from the two-headed snake. As the two blood fused, the incantation was invoked and the blood pact was formed. To every beast appraiser, blood contract was the foundation of every beast appraiser. It was a must-learn spell. Even an apprentice beast appraiser had to have a firm grasp of it. However, even though it was a blood pact, Lin Jin's execution was pleasing to the eye and smooth, no matter how one looked at it. The people the Zhu family had invited in the past would always encounter all sorts of difficulties and stumble. Like reciting an essay, they would stutter or get stuck for no reason. But Lin Jin's blood pact was as smooth as flowing water. There was no pause at all. By the time the blood pact was completed, they hadn't even realized what was going on. All right. Lin Jin opened the cage and let the two-headed snake out. Zhu Yuan ordered his pet beast excitedly. The two-headed snake immediately slithered out obediently and settled down beside Zhu Yuan. Zhu Tianhong looked excited. Although there were some troubles and obstacles, they finally succeeded. The descendant of the Zhu family had formed a blood pact with this rank 2 pet beast. As long as they familiarized themselves with it and nurtured Zhu Yuan, in a year at most, with Lin Jin's help, the Zhu family would have a rank 3 pet beast. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.